Islam, Islam. Islam, Islam. Herein El Bay.
Islam family.
Dr. Bati Bey, how you be?
All right, how you be, brother? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm just as Morris as ever. Praise Allah. Dr. Herein Bey, Islam, Mo.
Islam, Assistant Chairman, peace and love, family.
How you be?
All is well, Mo. Islam.
Islam, Islam.
Yes, sir. How you be, Mo? You out there on the road?
No, man, I'm home, man. I'm at the consulate. So
praise Allah. Praise Allah.
Yeah, man, we got in this demonstration yesterday morning, you know, from that heavy wind coming from the west to the east. So we here. Yes, indeed. Dr. Myers Bey, Islam, Council General, how you be?
Praise Allah, honors noble Drew Ali, Islam, family Myers Bay, Apalachicola, Florida territory, checking in. I'm just as Morris as ever got, man. I'm trying to figure out this phone, man. I was on the South Carolina concert on my way to work and it just dropped and I can't call nobody. I gotta be on Wi-Fi to do anything. So if I drop off, that means that I stepped out from Wi-Fi and then I have to pop back in. So gratitude and peace and love.
Islam. Well, what I do is I just keep the door open, Mo. So no worries. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Gratitude, Dr. Bati Bey.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you the man. So other than that, while you opening up the way, I'll just be as we have our Moorish American citizens coming in, our executive rulers, I'll just be bringing them in while you opening up the way. Islam.
Chapter 13.
Yes, sir. Chapter 13. Human equality, Mo.
Human equality. I'm gonna see if we got any more online. Hey, brother Harut, my El Bay.
Islam.
Are you stationary where you can read the divine constitution?
Islam, yes, sir.
That's not. Gratitude.
Islam. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. How that weather, Dr. Bati Bey, up there?
Man, well, it's pretty sunny and kind of warm right now. You know what I'm saying? Pretty sunny, kind of warm.
Islam.
I gotta change this oil in this car.
You try to wait till you get a little warmer, I assume.
Man, I gotta do the front brakes, back brakes, oil. Got to change the little filter. There's a little filter around the oil filter that you got.
Yes,
it's like a little square box. I gotta take that off, reseal that. Change the spark. I got a lot of work to do on this vehicle. Man.
Islam. Well, you know, we definitely trying to wait till it get a little warm.
Yeah.
I ain't mad at you, Mo.
Hey, it's expensive taking it to the shops, man.
Hey, listen, if you can do it, Mo. Look here, man, I give honest to you. Hey, Islam, tribe endurance, all is well.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam. Islam, Dr. HEKAPTAH to the Common Bay and tribe. Greetings.
Islam.
Glad to be here.
Salute.
Islam.
We got 2 minutes, family. We just
Islam.
give all praise be to our Father God, Lord, to our Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam. Islam to the Holy Covenant of the Asiatics. Islam. National Sister Grand Sheik, Islam, Grand Man, how you be?
I'm just as Morris as ever. How about yourself, brother?
Hey, this is more seven. Praise Allah for you. Good to see you on the manifest.
Yes, sir. All is well, my brother.
All is well. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I see you done chopped the bushes off.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. Right here, Mo. Don't even play like that. You gonna make me come to Tallahassee, man.
Islam.
I would say,
Hey.
boy, stop.
Islam, brother. Islam. Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Everything all right with the brothers?
Islam.
Everybody, yeah, everybody Islam. Beautiful. Everybody motions up.
Decent.
Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Islam.
Islam, time never was. First, I like to rise and give all, my name is Dr. Bati Bey. First, I like to rise and give all manner praises to Allah, honors to the Prophet, honors to our theocratic government, our royal council, our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution, our bylaws, our swift angels, our muftis, our seal, emblem, and flag. I give honors to all the Moors that are here, all the ones that will speak after me. With that, I would like to open up the way with the ancient Kemetic Adapt Moorish American prayer. That's Ya Allah abnu haru makunetaru, Ya Allah abhet haru, Ya Allah ma'at haru, Ya Allah hotep haru, Ya Allah haru, Ya Allah ma'at harukuti, Ya Allah awajajajuti, Ya Allah pratim sutek pratim haru, Ya Allah bamaduti, and hadith sepsis ray up to Ali. Ameen. Alayisa, Alayisa, Alayisa. And as to say, in transliteration, it says, "O Allah, the Father of the universe, O Allah, the Father of love, O Allah, the Spirit of truth, O Allah, the Spirit of peace, O Allah, the Spirit of freedom, O Allah, the Spirit of justice, O Allah, you are my protector, O Allah, you are my guide, O Allah, you are my salvation by night and by day, O Allah, you are, O Allah, through your holy prophet, O Allah, Drew Ali, Amen. Holy Isa, Holy Isa, Holy Isa." And with that, I would like to turn this meeting over for the reading of the Divine Constitution to our brother Haru Ma'at Elbey. Islam.
Islam, Islam.
Islam.
I'd like to praise our Father God Allah, honors our Prophet Nubu Ali, salvation our God, unity, divine constitution of Moorish America, Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of Moorish America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and is known before the citizens of Moorish America. The bylaws. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7. And love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on the Friday, the first man was formed in flesh. And on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and a partial of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish American is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. Thus, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and the divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given as slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasting until 1865 during the time of slavery. This is a new era in time. This is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues, keep in line for all necessities of Moorish America, and then you're entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God, Allah. Islam, Islam, Islam.
Islam. And with that said, I will read the chapter 13. Yehoshua attends a feast in Bahar, and here he taught human equality. The fame of Yehoshua as a teacher spread through all the land, and people came from near and far to hear his words of truth. At Bahar, on the sacred river of the Brahms, he taught for many days. And a wealthy man of Bahar made a feast in honor of his guests, and he invited everyone to come. And many came, among them thieves, extortioners, and courtesans. And Yehoshua sat with them and taught. But they who followed him were much grieved, because he sat with the thieves and the courtesans. And they upbraided him. They said, Rabbani, master of the wise, this day will be an evil day for you. The news will spread that you consort with courtesans, and men will shun you as they shun the asp. And Yehoshua answered them and said, a master never screens himself for the sake of reputation and fame. These are but worthless babbles of the day. They arise and sink like empty bottles on the stream. They are illusions and will pass away. They are the indecisive to what the thoughtless think. They are noise that people make, and shallow men judge merit by noise. Allah and all master men judge men by what they are and not what they seem to be, not by their reputation and their fame. These courtesans and thieves are children of my Father Allah. Their souls are just as precious in his sight as yours, or of the Brahmic priest. And they are working out the same life sums that you have solved. You men who look at them with scorn. And some of them have solved much harder than you have solved. You men who look at them with scorn. Yes, they're sinners and confess their guilt, while you are guilty but are shrewd enough to have a polished coat to cover up your guilt. Suppose you men who scored this courtesan, these drunkards, and these thieves, who know that they are pure in heart and life, that you are a better far than they. Stand forth that man may know just who you are. The sin lies in the wish, in the desire, not the act. You covet other people's wealth. You look at charming forms, and deep within your heart, you lust for them. Deceit you practice every day, and wish for gold, for honor, and for fame, just for your selfish selves. The man who covets is a thief, and she who lusts is a courtesan. You who are none of these, speak out. Nobody spoke. The accusers held their peace. And Joshua said, the proof this day is against those who have accused. The pure in heart do not accuse. The vile in heart who want to cover up their guilt with holy smoke of piety are ever loathing drunkards, thieves, and courtesans. This loathing and this scorn are mockery, for it is the tinseled coat of reputation could be torn away. The loud professor would be found to reveal in his lust, deceit, and many forms of secret sin. The man who spends his time in pulling other people's weeds can have no time to pull his own, and all the choicest flowers of life will be choked and die. And nothing will remain but darnels, thistles, and burrs. And Yehoshua spoke a parable. He said, behold, a farmer had great fields of ripened grain. And when he looked, he saw the blades of many stalks of wheat were bent and broken down. And when he sent his reapers forth, he said, we will not save the stalk of wheat that have broken blades. Go forth and cut and burn the stalks with the broken blades. And after many days, he went to measure up his grain, but not a kernel could he find. And then he called the harvesters and said to them, where's my grain? They answered him and said, we did according to your word. We gathered up and burned the stalks with broken blades, and not a stalk was left to carry to the barn. And Yehoshua said, if Allah saves only one who have unbroken blades, who have been perfected in his sight, who will be saved? And the accusers hung their heads in shame, and Yehoshua went his way. Islam, 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 peace and love. Now I'd like to turn this meeting over to our acting assistant Grand Sheikh, Dr. Sadedi, pardon me, Dr. Hashid Islam.
Islam, can you hear me, grand man?
Islam, I didn't want to slaughter your name. Islam.
No, it's all right. All is well, brother. You know, it's no problem. Praise be to Allah. But let us rise upon the seventh and give all praises to the great God Allah and honors to his holy prophet. Honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere. And therefore, honors to all of you who are honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal. We give honors to our Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. We give honors to our Moorish kin, as we always do, you know, uplifting fallen humanity, and also giving the honors for just being here in this new era and time. Because were it not us being here on the manifest now, where would the world be? You know, I know our Moorish kin have been doing a lot of different research in regards to dealing with the linguistics and everything else. And as we are working our way up on being able to get into being familiar with, you know, basically how to bring forth our own tongue, which is easy. It ain't nothing hard. The main measure is we want to make sure that our Moorish kin is well-rounded when it comes to dealing with, you know, the language, you know, because it's necessary that we have our own dictionary, you know, our Moorish dictionary. It's a lot of us going to be based off of the same lessons, you know, like Elihu's lessons and so forth and so on, but just with the Kemetic measure brought forth, you know, an enhancement, so to speak, of the same drawing. So this is our language that we have in mind to bring forth. You know, we're not trying to Romanize our people and Arabize our people, or, you know, take them in any other direction. I want to make that plain so that we don't get that especially thought in the mindset. Everything that we are doing right now, we are actually overthrowing, you know, that mindset that had been placed in us. What I want to do briefly, I want to start off, I had shared a video that was shared with me earlier, and I want our Moorish kin to get a drawing off of this before we go into our session, because it's very relevant. Hold up, let me make sure I got it up here so I can share this screen. Okay, yeah, here we go, right here. Okay, so let me get it up here. And this is gonna set the tone for where we going. You know, the prophet said he was gonna make the European tell the truth.
White culture, if you could even call it culture, is based in racism. It was a narrative created by colonizers like my Portuguese ancestors in order to justify what they were doing to other people on the continent of Africa and even here in North America. And the narrative was that we white people were better than all other races. And they did so through Christianity. They took the Bible and different scripture verses, twisted it around in order to fit the narrative of colonialism and white supremacy, and also the patriarchy. And the patriarchy is white man in power. White supremacy is white man in power. Colonialism is white man in power. And Christianity, for the most part nowadays, is white man in power. There are historical references and proof where the Catholic Church actually said to enslave an African was to save their soul. The kidnapped and enslaved Africans that were here in North America were preached different scripture verses than were actually in the Bible. And that's why they weren't allowed to read. Because if they could read, then they could see that these scripture verses were incorrect and they couldn't be controlled anymore by this white God. Yeah. And white people, we didn't identify as white until colonialism. We identified as Portuguese or Latvian or German or Italian or French. But then colonialism came around, and then all of a sudden we became white and we were superior because we were the chosen race by God, and the scripture verses proved it. And we had to go into other people's lands and preach the gospel when really it was all a ruse. It was all an excuse to go in and rape and pillage the land and the people and the cultures. So when I say that white culture is based in racism, it's based in racism. Christianity was the Trojan horse of white supremacy and colonialism. And Western Christianity, as we know today, is still based within superiority. Correct. All Christians think that they're better than everybody else. I grew up in it. I'm very familiar with the culture. And it's part of the problem. There's a reason why most of Trump's supporters are Christians. Yeah. It's because they don't even realize that the conditioning of colonialism and Christianity and the patriarchy is so deeply embedded within them and their identity that they don't even see the truth. Christianity is based in superiority, in white superiority, in white culture, which is all based in racism. Yep.
Okay. So that's some of the European owned daughters basically giving it to you uncut, you know. And we see how excited our young sister was to hear her saying this, you know. And you see automatically, even though the European young lady was speaking truth to power when it comes to her own, just look at the way that the information was accepted from her, you know, just because she said it. You see what I'm saying? And this shows you, you know, I'm talking about in agreement with everything, where that same information can come from our own people. And our people will put their hands up and say, no, 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 no. You know what I mean? But sometimes that's what we need along the way, to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And that was one of the grand drawings that I figured out a long time ago, Moorish King. You know, when it comes to even sourcing up. So a lot of times you might see me come through, you know, the Europeans saying certain measures, if they coming through information that support what it is we demonstrating, because our people won't accept it in most cases when it come from us. So you have to basically almost feed it to them, you know, in a way that they can get it from that aspect, and then you open them up for what it is that we already have to give them anyway, you know. And so, for example, you know, to break the ice with our people, I always like to demonstrate, you know, the Willie Lynch or the King Alfred plan. It's coming straight out the European mouth. Then I can go further into, you know, dealing with the concept of being stripped of nationality and so forth and so on. But before I do that, I'm gonna go into the Black Code Law, the Code Noir, and all of that right there. You know, because other than that, it's like we instantaneously see what we bring on the manifest as something that's pseudo. For some reason, when we saying it got to be made up, it can't be the truth. You know, but when the Europeans say it, and that's just a random European young lady, but she's considered basically scholastic in that particular state by that young sister. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted to play that particular measure, you know, just to go into the aspect of anything that that young sister may not be aware of, is that Prophet Noble Drew Ali say he was gonna make the European tell the truth. See, that's something our sister ain't aware of, even though it may move her and direct her into a state of unfoldment into her consciousness, because we can tell she excited about waking up. The thing is I remember a time when I first started waking up, and I still got the same excitement when it comes to the knowledge. But after a time when you begin to do research and see that your people love slavery, that's going to be one of the hardest things that you have to accept along the way. You see what I'm saying? So that comes into a state where sometimes it get lonely at the top. If you ain't dealing with the great God Allah, you know what I mean? And some of our people, they burn out. You know, they get burnt out and they lay down. They ain't laying down, you know. And I know a lot of our Moorish kin here now is not laying down, you know. So when we come forth to bring these measures on the manifest, we know the problem. We know how things have been remixed. We know how the European has came in, usurped coaches and overthrown things, you know, and we can run this down like it ain't nothing, you know. But now is the time to definitely take the pen in our hand, you know, and rewrite history. You see, and the people don't see how severe this is and how important this is in this new era and time. But we got to lead the charge. The times for arguing over the textbooks of the Europeans, because that's what be going on. One's arguing different points of the Europeans that they don't even argue. If they get up there and set a measure out there, they accept it as the law. They can be talking about extraterrestrials, you know, aliens and everything else that they don't have the ability to prove. But just because they say it, I'm talking about they put this on mass media, TV. They ain't ashamed of it. So why is it that we have to, when it comes to us, so to speak, as a people, you know, we even got certain so-called conscious channels out here on YouTube, you know, that if we as a people begin to say, well, we don't like that or that's pseudo, you know, they don't even want to let you up on their platform. You know what I mean? They don't even want to let you bring a certain truth for some of them because they feel like it's a threat to what it is that they already demonstrate. You know, so they'll let somebody come there that's not knowledgeable, that may be considering themselves Moorish, so they can make Moorish America look bad. But somebody that has the knowledge of what really, they ain't gonna let you come on there and just run everything down and tell the people what it is. They gonna get you on there and then they want to try to get inquisitive, so you become deadlocked and arguing over something that there's no worth. And that's why I don't deal with a lot of people out there in social media in certain arenas, you know, when it comes to those things anymore, because you go forward with the mindset of teaching your people, you know, but they have the mindset that they are trying to get some money. And when you get in the way of their money, you already know how that's gonna go. So That's just measures I wanted to put out there because these things affect us as a people. They cause, you know, a stagnation period, you know, within our ranks, you know, amongst us, so to speak. You know, they set us back and keep us from being able to move ahead. So these things we have to address as well. You know, we like to be inquisitive with each other. For example, we got Moors that will invite somebody from the outside to teach the same thing that we teaching in the government, you know, and it's all because they feel like they're familiar with those who are here in the government. So they can hear this same lesson from somebody outside of the government, you know, and accept it from those individuals, hands down. You know, our chairman can talk to us about, our sister Saket can talk to us about, you know, all types of things, healing the body and all that there, to everything. You know, we can talk about, you know, the aspects of international law. But our people, for some reason, when they think that they have become familiar, you know, they feel like they don't want to hear you no more. You know, you boring, as the Grand Secretary of the State say. You know, and when familiarity kick in, if one is not careful, disrespect kick in. I see my Moorish kin in the same respectful status that I see them when I first came into the government. I don't change about the way that I feel about my Moorish kin or the way I see you. You see, now, if you rise up and show a different side, then I'm gonna deal with you accordingly, like we all will. But other than that, we just give honor to our Moorish kin. And what I want to do, as we always do, Moorish kin, is call forth our family to give a reading before we proceed in this special measure. And we actually want to start on page 322. And we're using the hammer repetition right here. And go to page actually 324, well, 325 actually. And we can stop there. Islam, and whoever will read one of our Moors, can we get about 3 of our Moors to read? We can start at 322, be conscious of biblical beginnings. Islam?
Islam.
Okay, all right, Brother Marvin Edwards Bay. We'll have you read over into, make sure I ain't putting everything on. All right, yeah, you can stop actually at Inquiring Minds on page 323. And then whoever's gonna follow you up, is there a volunteer there that would like to read on page 23? Pick up here.
Islam.
Okay, Brother Bati Bey, you can start on how did the Greeks fit into biblical history. And then you can actually go over to see religious finale. And the last Moorish American Muslim can take it from 324 to 325 and stop above a value of divine history. Islam, who is the last Moor that would like to come forward and volunteer?
Islam.
Sister Kurta Bey?
Islam, yes. You say start from back to the Greeks and stop at the value of a divine history?
Yeah, well, it says Vatican subsidiaries.
Islam.
Yeah, Islam.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. All right, Brother Marvin Edwards Bay. Islam, you may proceed, my brother.
Gratitude. Gratitude. Yes,
Gratitude.
this is Dr. Elvis Bay out of the Texas Consulate, rising, giving all praise to the great God Allah, giving highest honor to his prophet, our prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, El Haj Sharif Abdul Ali. Give honor to our theocratic government, our Moorish American government. Give honor to our Act 1. I give honor to all of our officials. I give honor to this class, our Moorish Perspectives class. Pardon self. Egyptian Adaptist Sultanate Research class. I give honor. I give honor to you, Dr. Shadu Amenti Al Mohezi Shepsuel, for hosting Egyptian adapted Sultanate class. As well as I give honor to all those that aided in bringing forth our class tonight, this morning. I give honors to everything Morris, our flag, our seal, our emblem, our divine constitution, Holy Quran, Book of Aliyah, 101, 102, the exhuming of a nation, all of our divine revelations. I give honor. I give honor to our ancestors. I give honors to Dr. Marcus Mased Garvey, who was our forerunner to our prophet. I give honors. And I'll begin. Deep conscious of biblical beginnings. To this day, most do not know they have been lied to by those who wrote the word of God in their Koine Street Greek language. The biblical Adam and Eve saga was among the first literature the slaves were allowed or force-fed to read, and was greatly enforced with barbaric dosages of the fear of white man God by European rulers and slave masters alike. This was the sole purpose of Freemasonry, the Reconstruction Amendments, and the Ku Klux Klan. The establishment were to, the establishments were to save these black sinning heathens from their own wretchedness and for the unconscious institutions of slavery's New World Order. Albeit, since the Greeks' biblical version is the only version of Adam and Eve known to so-called blacks, then let's sojourn there and see what they look like in the light. But bear in mind, the divine origin of the original Hebrew laws of Moses began in the Egyptian mystery system, and the basic European translation of these biblio teachings evolved into a middleman religion of events, which, quite candidly, he brewed up. Also, remember, now as the Moorish Americans began to write their own history, had it not been for Noble Drew Ali's revealing these great truths of divine origin of African nations, the Western world would not be forced to concede to over 2,000 years of fabricated religious dogma with the information highways and cyberspace intelligence. The true story of Adam and Eve is all about the divine creation and heritage of the original African people. They were not only the first man to people the planet Earth, but their will was emerged with the will of their Father God. Drew Ali placed this in the science of Asiatics and Muslims, the mothers and fathers of the human family. Question 57. Here, it would be good to note a Muslim is anyone who submits his will or her will entirely to the will of the great God. Hence, Adam and Eve were Muslims before they became Asiatics and human. During the millenniums of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and in the world called Asia, there were no Europeans made. The hueless ones of the Netherlands were not even thought of, not even a thought. But now today's pale-skinned nations have had the privilege of governing the earthland, telling his story of all of a sudden, they are foremost authority on the original first family, Adam and Eve. Surely, this is parallel only to a bastard giving the apocalypse, a great-grandparents, apocalypse of great-grandparents, or hearing fish stories being told by date trees, or Mutt telling the history of his pedigree, or the green monkey that fathered A's. Speaking of monkeys, how is it an entire people who proudly proclaims to evolve from primates know the true history about the human family? Was it not these same people who pillaged the prophetic and oral history from the Hebrew tribes in the first place? Not only that, But as unanimous Moors try to paint themselves black into a biblical history, little do they notice it is the pale-skinned nations of Europe themselves who denounce all claims to the biblical human family. This paganistic practice of making God in the image and likeness of man is a gratified weakness amongst the nations of the earth. In these modern times, the nations of Europe named themselves white, then made Yehoshua in their image and called him God. Domesticated African slaves being forbidden first-rate entry into white supremacy and white Christianity were allowed to make their own versions of these institutions in the quiet of their slave quarters. Today, these are various NBC fraternal orders and Christian denominations fully equipped with their own versions of the Bible, complete with Black Yehoshuas and surrounding characters, right? And surrounding characters in their image and likeness. Oh, the horrors of fallen humanity. Can all this be blamed on the rabid hormones of Mr. and Mrs. Monkey? The biblical story of Adam and Eve, as told by many religious of the cross, originated from Moses and various Hebrew slave tribes of Africa. Most of these tribal stories lost their spiritual significance in the translations from African origins to European carnal comprehension. What was later reported to the world diluted and spiritually deprived versions of Greek interpretations of creations and fall of man. These diverted rays of the truth were not the real theme, but have predominantly hatched the modern West. Not to speak radical against the church, but it seems to me anyone who teaches man cannot be perfected and then give the great God a mama named Mary should know eventually they would have to face the truth sought by inquiring minds. Islam.
Islam. This is about to debate the Iowa territory. Praise the noun is already given. And I begin. How did the Greeks fit into the biblical history? Turning to the centuries surrounding the life of Yehoshua, BC to AD, history reveals the Romans and Greeks were governing Palestine. Question 28. In fact, Greek was made the national language, although the indigenous, like Yehoshua, continued to speak Aramaic. 2 Kings 18:26 and Ezra 4:7. The tongue of the forefathers. This is similar to English being made the national language of the United States, although the surviving Canaanite tribes, Indians, continue to speak Athabascan and other indigenous dialects. True history will also reflect the Greeks thought all languages other than Greek sounded like blah, blah, ho hum de blah, and considered all non-Greeks barbarians. There are two levels to Greek language: classical, correct or proper Greek, and Koine. Koine Greek is the everyday common street language with standard colloquial trash talking expressions and general ad-libbing Greek. After the beginning, Koine became the word of God. You guessed it. The Septuagint, first translation of the Bible, was translated entirely in Koine Greek. Naturally, since the Greek and Romans give themselves the title of God, question 92, and wrote their Bibles in Greek and Latin, it is not strange for today's Black Christians, etc., to defend their master's book as the word of God. To most of them, the only God they have ever known is the same masters which wrote the Bible and then used the same book to justify the Ma'afa of African enslavement. Actually, the the origins of the word God began as the words of the ancient pharaohs and simply means voice of the ruler of the land, Islam. Question 93. People, namely so-called Negroes who refer to the Bible as being the word of God, are in fact giving praise to the words of the Greeks. And though various paganistic forms that are pleasing to themselves make Europeans, white men, their God. This does not mean there are no truths in the Bible. Quite the contrary. What this means is the Bible is not and will not ever and was not ever the word of God, but the words of the Greeks. It does not matter how much the NBC pastor Hawk sweat and spit in the name of Jesus, the letter J, pale skinned God, and all came from the Greeks and was traumatized into the slaves by the European brothers, by their European brothers. It must be remembered in the minds of the Greeks, they were the only gods. As people, they could not fathom a divine origin and subsequently could not perceive a God greater than themselves, unless it was an African God man whom they call Yehoshua to this very day. No European nation ever knew or worshiped the great God. As Drew Ali wrote, man's highest ideal is his God. The Greeks at their greatest were not powerful enough to completely hide the holy light of Africa that was centralized in ancient Kemet, Egypt. Nevertheless, once the truth has been confounded, it is no longer pure and it can do more harm than healing. Where the Greeks and other Europeans have fallen short on African comprehension is for anyone to know the spirit, they must be the spirit. The Greeks, neither Romans nor any of the pale-skinned invaders of the Holy Lands never fully understood the spiritual foundation of Hebrew, Aramaic, sister language to Arabic, nor any of the other 200 languages of Akabalan. No, Akabalan means mother of mankind or Garden of Eden. It is the descendant language Swahili of the ancient Cushites. Akabalan is the indigenous name given to the continent native misnomer Africa by the Romans. Her first true and divine name is Amexem, which means land of the holy gods and the land of the holy people, MKH, more so the Quran 46:3. The reason for this lack of transliteration is not because Africans were the primitive monkey-built pagans as portrayed by virtually every European Bible pusher since Constantine 280 to 337 AD. It is simply because they could not understand the boundless spirit realm. They could not measure what they could not see with their carnal eyes. The world has hollowed covenants, holistic cultures, and the line uniting divinity and matter is incomprehensible to those unable to see inward, the third eye. See the third eye. This was the foremost lesson for the Adamites to learn. Whenever European rulers fail to understand the infinite and the timeless, they will either try to destroy or distort the subsequent manifest. These thoughts draw strength from the bowels of envy, lust, and hatred. It is in the nature of hatred to be short-sighted, a slave to time, and fearful of anything it does not create. Therefore, the foundation of the Bible rests upon a great conspiracy. It was the amalgamation between the Sanhedrin, beginning with Caiaphas, and the government of the European rule to nationalize the Jewish religion under Roman government. The world's greatest cover-up since Adam tried to hide from his maker had begun. Roman subjugation of Israel's religion is rooted in the famed crucified death and resurrection of Rabboni Yehoshua. Those Jews who would not conform to the government's version of Judaism were later called Christians. not because they were pious like Yehoshua the Christ, but because the title Christians distinguish the rebellious Jews from those willing to compromise under the Roman yoke of law. Yes, the first Christians were Jews. This is why Yehoshua warned John to beware of those who call themselves Jews and are not. Revelations 2 verse 9. Today, the Roman assumable jurisdiction of civil customs is reenacted in the United States takeover of prohibition and the lottery numbers game. Remember, selling liquor and running numbers were crimes and felony when acted by America's common people, but a government control of poor people's pleasure was legalized by the use of one word, license. A license is a document of authorization to practice that would otherwise be illegal. Black's Law Dictionary. Oppression can do strange and often unimaginable things to the human mind. Weak-minded Jews became Christians the same way pork-free African Muslims have become pig feet eating Negro Christians of US today. The powerful effects of oppression have never been truly measured on the minds of the US slaves. The Bible will, with its Hebrew Greek version of Adam and Eve, was siphoned from the Israelites during their state of iron hand oppression. The Greeks recognized the Kemetic Egyptian influence in the Mosaic law because Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and Hippocrates had all received their formal education in the Egyptian mystery system, not to mention the notorious Alexander the Greek. The reader should also remember Moses, being raised as an Egyptian aristocrat, received the foremost teachings of its ancient Adapt mystery system. These teachings also included perfection of the God self with its powerful dominion over all other living things, created by the seven eyes of Allah, the Elohim. This is why the Pharaoh heart appeared hardened. Pharaoh simply knew all the sciences of the God-man, which Moses had mastered before being exiled. The Egyptian sages were simply not impressed with the exploits by one of their former students, who they viewed now as a traitor for taking the secret teachings into the forbidden lands in the north. Yehoshua, the prophet, also received these lessons, Sunam Bunam, in the Egyptian temples featuring Sutanothni, meaning man know thyself. See religious finale, Islam.
Islam. I am Dr. Kemetic Bay. First, let me rise and give praises to the great God Allah. I give honors to our holy prophet, NUBIAN. I give honors to Act 1. I give honors to this class. Back to the Greeks. The book of Moses, collectively called the Torah, translate from the Hebrew language containing no vowels into Greek, lost a world of spiritual definition in the very first draft of the Bible's Old Testament. The Greek version of the Holy Bible, called the Septuagint, the Greek word for 70. 70 is also the Egyptian number for brotherhood. The Septuagint acquired its title from the council of 70 rabbis that convened to translate the Torah into a low-class Greek language. All subsequent Bibles trickle down from this one. Example given, the Roman Catholic Latin, the infamous King James Version spawned more subsequent Bibles trickle down from this one. Example given, the infamous King James Version spawned more than 3,000 variations, edited, revised, and fraternal word of God. Did I mention the Holy Quran and the ancient Bhagavad Gita had never been changed? This history is pertinent to Adam and Eve because most of the westernized world is only aware of their biblical version. Yet the Bible was never written by a single prophet, as are other sacred tablets. This is because every major prophet always leaves a holy book of guidance for their special people. And while most Christian scholars are drenched in a maze of unresolved questions about Adam, Eve, Cain, the flood, Moses, the missing 18 years of Yehoshua's life, etc., etc., rarely does anyone question who titled the Bible holy in the first place, or who said it is the word of God. Another master question is, since there is no difference between the great God and his name, who is the God that wrote the Holy Bible? Truth is, the era of Moses was about 1300 BC. The oldest Hebrew story in the Bible only dates back to a little less than 4000 BC. Good gracious. There are pyramids and mounds older than these Hebrew stories. The ancient Sephardic Moabites had circumnavigated the entire continent of Amexem by 8000 BC. There are many African civilizations that gave birth to the tribe of Israel, collectively known as Hebrews. In fact, is it not strange that Adam's son Cain already knew his wife, although they were in No, east of Eden, Genesis 4:16-17. The entire story of Adam and Eve marks the two great civilizations. The first was during the founding of Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu. This one was before the catastrophic earthquake, which is often confused with a 40-day biblical monsoon called the flood. When Moses led the tribe out of Egypt, east into the promised land, did I mention the Moabites were already using Moab? The Amorites were busy in Ammon, and there were some Canaanites still in Canaan. In other words, the promised land was already being occupied by natives of that era. And accurate history would also reflect that the promised land was another lawful providence of ancient Kemet, Egypt. During this time, the only gods of the civilized world were the pharaohs who were the rulers of the earthland. They were not too pleased with those who called themselves Jews, squatting on their land across the sea. It seems the descendants of those self-proclaimed Jews of that era would be repeating the same Exodus 3,300 years later in the 1948 Western backed proclamation of Islamic occupied land. Case in point, the biblical Hebrew stories are not the true origin of the human family. These stories are mostly abstract versions of the divine creation, fall, and perfection of man. These histories of the world were learned by an enslaved people, Hebrews, while under Kemetic rule and mystery system. The world's first religious creed, Islamism. By slaves never being greater than their master, they rarely understood the origin or nature of their master's creed. Anyway, the original Hebrews, with Moses' Egyptian teaching, did not believe that God or man had beginning, nor did they believe that spirit man could die, not as long as the great God lives. The Egyptians had taught Moses that man is a perfect being. This is why the Great Torah in its original Hebrew text is by far more accurate than today's infamous Word of God. But only a few NBC people dig back far enough to the origin of a given matter. The truth of the creation and fall of man states, time never was when man was not. If life of man at any time began, a time would come when it would end. Most Holy Quran, chapter 1. In contrast to this immutable truth, the Greek's Holy Bible gave God the creation and man various time slots, with the Bible's infamous opening alpha passage of "in the beginning," Genesis 1:1. In the beginning is the Greek misinterpretation of the Hebrews' oral history, and because the start of today's once upon a time introduced to some Western stories, only one kind of a person would equate the infinite absolute with the finite duration called time. Perhaps this is why Noble Drew Ali stated, finite mind cannot comprehend things infinite. Ironically, the majority of the man-made people, American Negro, Black, have not figured out one major problem. With all the religious and political world rulers and evangelistic preaching about love for humanity, why is it that none of the major religions teach them the truth of who they are? But then again, the problem itself has been a secret till now. Now, with some of the biblical discrepancies and other Greek Roman slants to the original man aforementioned, let us now remind ourselves of Africa's Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, as documentation, is the ancient Kemetic and Moabite record of spirit man's descent into human form and conscious liberation back to the all of his God state again. For those Black African Americans, especially stuck in the stupor of disbelief and never question what God, Greek, is the Bible truly the word of, they need to review one historical revelation. The modern world is nearly 86% populated by people of olive skin. There are Bibles in all of them, even Islamic countries. Yet, how many nations and tribes of Africa descent, all people of hue, own and rule their indigenous land without European intervention? But the Bible and its trademark cross are in these places. And who is the economic and more often than not political, social, and religious ruler of their land? How much has truly changed since the era of Brother Yehoshua? See Illuminati. So what does this have to do with Adam and Eve? Value, just plain value. Security is what gives a thing value. An accurate, unbiased, and truthful history of any place, person, and time is what gives it value. Security is a manifest of purity, cleanliness, and truth. To see Adam, Ish, and Eve, Isha, in their God state as the original man, chosen to be from the source of Eden, a Mexican, a Cuban, Africa, then as the first humans to walk the earth, is to know their true history. The true history of Adam and Eve is so infinitely valuable to the Moors. These were the children of Adam, Ish, and Eve, Isha, because they honored them as their divine link to their creator. As long as the Moorish nation remember their sacred origin, they could not be mentally enslaved. This is why it took the nations of Europe under the Roman Catholic / Christian crusade 2,000 years to break the minds of the Moors and whitewash away Adam and Eve from their memories. In fact, without speaking radical, the Bible is the chief agitator of the white washing machine of Adam and Eve. This is the reason they, the prophet and Yehoshua, appear suddenly pale skinned in the final rinse of the colored church of today's Vatican subsidiaries. Islam. I turn it back over to our National Assistant Grand Chief.
Islamism, goddess and queen, can you hear me?
Islam, I can hear you well.
Praise be to Allah. Islam, 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 and gratitude more for the readings that you all have brought forth in the measures that you brought forth on the manifest. Praise be to Allah. You know, it don't get no plainer than that. You know, just getting grand drawing from our Moorish kin. We just say praise be to Allah and honors to, you know, our holy prophet for bringing these things on the manifest that we have here now, you know, to give us a clear conception of what it is that we are called to do. We give honors to our chairman, you know, for that grand work in regards to letting us know who basically brought forth the remix. I mean, he said it through there. It couldn't be no more eloquent than that, so to speak. You see? I mean, the chairman put it out there as it is. And so basically our foundation, we are able to springboard ourselves into this subject matter based upon all of that and his other measures where the chairman went into that even further in depth in the book of fire. What I want to do is give some grand demonstrations on some of the remixes that took place and why I say what I say when I say the European, you know, when they use terms such as pseudo and all this, that they're basically going in opposition to what it is our ancestors have brought on the manifest. We're going to have a grand drawing today. And I got a couple of sources up here, and I end up sending a lot of this stuff out as well, you know, at a later hour, so to speak. So our Moorish king can get a drawing off this special demonstration. What I want to go into first and foremost, because I like to refresh our Moorish king and make sure that we are moving in line, because this ain't something that we do every day, you know, so I don't expect our Moorish kin to hold all of this information, you know, near and dear, so to speak, for a long duration. So at times we revisit certain measures here, and this is basically dealing with the context, you know, and where we'll be going, so to speak. So when you look at this picture here, we have already shown our Moorish. We even showed some more pictures in our last presentation, you know, in our research. We showed a couple of more of them that took it back to Kemet. We know without doubt our contradiction. From here on out, the language we refer to, you know, they like to call it Greek. You know, we see again, HEKAPTAH. So this is what we will be referring to the language as. This ain't something we made up. This is something that we found through research, and it shouldn't surprise our Moorish kin. Not only as HEKAPTAH, but we can even go so far as use the term Old Nubia as well. And I'm gonna get into that in a second as well. You know, because everywhere you will find Coptic, what we have found, the European has placed, you know, the misnomer Greek there. So you have to look at that the same way as you look at us when they refer to us as Black people, Negroes, and colored people. So they misnormed the language just like they misnormed us as a people. You see, in the way that they demonstrate, we see is by placing misnomers on different cultures until where that culture actually is erased. You see, if you keep calling somebody a nickname for so long, then that's what one become known as, by the nickname, and one don't even know their real birth name, so to speak, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to the language. You see, we can even see our family got a small little staff that is similar to like a Tuhudic demonstration too. I didn't even see that in the beginning, you know, scales and everything, scales of mod and all that right here in the same demonstration. But nevertheless, what I'm pointing out is the characters of the language. That's most important to me right now, which we already established. This is HEKAPTAH. You know, we showed our Moorish kin that in many different levels of elevation, so to speak, when it comes to the consciousness of knowing who we are. in the totality of the picture, you know, as we showed our family here, there is no such thing, again, as Greek language or Greek culture apart from the HEKAPTAH. So these texts, again, this is the Greek, this is supposed to be, you know, the Greek here, right? And then this is HEKAPTAH, which we see is the same thing. That's why I say don't call something, you know, something that it ain't because you want to appease to somebody else. You see, that ain't what we gonna do. This ain't that type of party over here. So now that we had this knowledge, I had a book, and this book right here was like from the 1600s. I got to go and dig up, you know, the one that I cropped it from through my sources. Because when I crop this information, a lot of times I'm cropping it because I'm putting this stuff together, you know, and sometimes they do have to, well, the source is on the crop, but it's when I crop it out so it can fit, so it can be big enough to be seen, you know, this is the way it come out. That's why we don't always have that other information in there in the beginning. This is a whole bunch of different research that we did. Just know that it came from an authentic document. It wasn't made up. So when we come right here, right, this document, and it's old, like I want to say from the 16, 17, 1800s, one of, got a couple of them. But nevertheless, it showed you here, and it says alphabet Coptic Egyptian, right? This is one of our proofs on what we state when we talk about, you know, the Coptic being the dominant and the Greek being the one that was grafted on to the Coptic as opposed to the other way around. And we gave you the, you know, we brought forth the measure letting it be known it's impossible, you know, to be trying to say that Greek was on the manifest anyway, because, you know, we know that the last stage of the Egyptian language that is often pushed out there is said to be the Coptic. So ones can't explain it. I even seen in certain documents, they'll give the date, you know, of the Coptic going back to a certain date, but they won't mention AC or BC. I mean, AD or BC. And the reason why is because ones is being disingenuous. You know, they got to keep pushing this narrative that the Greek is the language that you see right here. You see, they got to keep pushing that narrative right here. So when they find out that, no, this is Coptic, you know, according to the context in which the supremacists like to demonstrate it, Western academia, you know, they like, no, we can't let that be known. You know, we got to keep saying that this Coptic is Greek. We got to do this because we'll be exposed as a liar. So anyway, they show the alphabet Greek right here, and it's a minor issue compared to the Coptic over here. It's only right to know that if we came first, you know, think about it. Who do you think the so-called Greeks got what they got from? They got it from us. It's some letters in here too, in this Coptic language, that also I can see the relation between it and Arabic. You see, which mean that, you know, either the Arabic letter had to evolve from this, which I would think that would be the case because Coptic came before the Arabic, or the Coptic letter evolved from the Arabic, which I just said, no, I don't think that's the case, right? For example, this letter here, which is Shin, you know, or the Shin letter for, you know, the HEKAPTAH. This is the letter Shin in the Arabic. You see what I'm saying? This is the same letter right here, right? Also, the letter that deals with Ka, right? They actually have a similar letter to the Ka. Look at the Arabic letter and look at this letter here. So this also tells me that this is much more older than Greek. Just them evidences right there, you know, identifying certain letters. And we can go, I'm pretty sure, and find more in the same area and see, you know, their relation. Because they would tell you, well, the majority of the letters were Greek and by 7 of them was Coptic. Instead of saying the Greek chose to take 23 letters out of the alphabet and abandon the rest. You see, instead of telling the truth now. Here's another one showing the Coptic alphabet. And notice the abjad is there. We just showing you this language because what we're going to have our Moorish kin to do, we're going to have our Moorish kin to go letter for letter like they did with the Arabic. You know, by the time it's over, it ain't got to be nothing big or nothing great, you know, but just, you know, a certain portion that you can find and bring forth a transliteration, so to speak. Not translation, but transliteration more than anything. And we're going to give you the tools that you need to be able to do it just like you did with the Arabic. So again, I hate when you do that and do it because it's fully expanded. Okay. If you look at it here, you see the numerical value on the side of that? That's key too. We're going to get into all of those things later. We just want our people to be able to identify with different characters. So this is another special measure dealing with the Coptic. Now down here, you know, which they identify one of these letters in the HEKAPTAH, you know, as, you know, a demotic letter. So the European took this form and say, well, this form right here must be this form. You know, and then this form, see the letters they put on the side of it? This letter here, they saying is this. This letter here, they saying is this. This letter here, they saying. So basically, they are looking and reaching, basically, trying to find a letter that looked like, you know, one of these symbols. And this is how they come up with their so-called language, which is crazy. We can do the same thing with the English alphabet. Pick out, use some hieroglyphic symbols, you know, and put ABCs on the side of them and start writing in the symbols. And we know that we assign the ABCs to them, so we know that represent a particular letter in the ABCs. You know, but that ain't got nothing to do with really deciphering the language of Kemetic. But nevertheless, they showing you, you know, how they took certain things from the Coptic, you know, and they call it Greek, as they always do. And that will confuse the world out of people that don't want to learn or just don't know no better or just listen to what somebody else told you. You know, and so we showed this right here. Our Moorish kin already seen this. They get this already. See the abjad there. You see the numerical values on the side of them, right? And then I showed you here that it tells you that when it comes to the Coptic languages, its original tongue, it has no admixture or any foreign language in its composition except Greek. In other words, that's when the Greeks so-called tried to put their twist off into that demonstration. Our Grand National Secretary of the State did a great job, you know, in the presentation she did in our last session as well. So we encourage our Moorish kin to go back and look at that as well and use that as a guideline, you know, because she did the same research, but just from a different perspective and went into the aspects of showing you the comparison. What she was actually pointing out, it was, I mean, it was so scholarly, Morris, because she was pointing out where the remix came in at, when they did it, how they did it, why they, you know, they couldn't get nothing past them. And that's how we have to be able to read this information. We got to be able to be so sharp that we can see, yeah, this is what a European came in with this special measure here. This was their addition. You know, if not, you're going to take something at face value and run with it. That's it. So this is, again, another expression of the same alphabet, but just Sahidic Coptic alphabet. You know good and well, this is the same symbols, again, that was being demonstrated right up here that they were writing in. You see? Same symbol. Minus that of contradiction. You know, look at it, look at it. Yeah. So when you look at all of that, only thing different is the style in which one write, because these people write different in their style than other individuals. But that's definitely HEKAPTAH right there. That ain't no Greek. So, and even when we had an explanation over here dealing with the classical works where they was explaining those who had studied up under the ancient Kemites. You know, you see the language that they wrote in here? A lot of people would like to call that Greek, but nobody. We ain't giving them that credit. And that's what we got to stop doing, giving them credit for the work that we demonstrate. Now I'm finna get into some hands-on drawings here that's gonna give our Moorish kin some good foundation. I want to pull up something real quick here. Let me get it up here first. Once I get it up here, I can show it to our Moorish kin. Okay. Let's see here. Just want to make sure I get the right, a full alphabetical chart up here. One second, Mazel. Okay. There we go there. Now I got that open. Okay, now that I got this particular measure here open, okay, I can share my screen. Okay, there we go. Right here. And I had sent this out to our Moorish kin. This is one of the charts our family ended up going off of, you know, which has what they place here as Coptic and Greek side by side. We see the letters are most definitely the same. Only difference is the style in writing the letters, but it's the same thing. So you can also see the example on how the European like to do their little thing when they be creating, you know, these different, you know, comparisons of the letters. You know, they go up to dealing with these measures here and then try to come up with a symbol that is related to these things. So they would say this right here is a circle. That don't look nothing like that though, but we gonna just like this symbol here. Like, how do you make this actual pictorial expression? How do you get this out of this? You know, so anything they could reach for and find, and that's why they done messed up, you know, the writing system when it comes to our people being able to comprehend what true hieroglyphics represent in the metaphysical sense, and also what the language represents, plain. So here's another expression of the Coptic alphabet, and y'all already have this PDF right here, Moorish kin. I'm just breezing over some things here because I'm going somewhere else into some more PDFs, and it's some more drawings that I would like to bring on the manifest, but it's something I want to point out right here. For example, what you will notice if you look closely, you can actually see, this is the transliteration. You can actually see the N-O here, right? And you know F, you know, being on the manifest, and you can see the I here. You see? You can see these things like Nani. You can see Nani here in the transliteration. You see the word is Atui, right? You can actually somewhat see that here. So this is why you can see how they later was able to come up with what they call so-called Greek, and then come up with a Latin alphabet, and why you see English as you see it now. You see like Ruhi. You can't really make this out so much so, you know, unless you're familiar with the alphabet over here. You see the O is still the same here, right? This right here looks somewhat like a U, you know, so you can see that right there. But you can't really see this as the H as it is. That's, you just see the symbol for it, but you can see the I as it is. Even the R kind of throw you off a little bit. But if you look closely at the actual alphabet, the script, you can see Nani, Atoi, right? Look at this. Nani, Atoi. You can look at it and see what it's saying in certain cases. Iho. You can kind of look at this here and see what's going. Now that you know that this is a H, you know, you can say, well, this is EH and O, and then they took it and draw it out with the W here. This is W. You know, this is just looking at these things right here without even going into any type of rules or anything. I'm just showing you how easy it is to identify the language. Igor, look over here. You see where we can tell this is the G then. You see, then you got the W here being replaced with the O here, or Igor. You see, this P looking symbol is really the R, and then you got that letter H again in the HEKAPTAH, right? You see it? So you can see these things. Nai, see, nay, nine. You can see it. And that ain't always the same. And then they throw it in here, they say, well, Greek word. And what I would say when I see these things coming up, because we know the original Greeks were the Etruscans, I would say this is more referring to the dialect than anything. When they say Greek word, I would say that this is referring to the dialect, a word that would probably came in from, you know, the Etruscans, you know, that was introduced into the language of those who were demonstrating in the HEKAPTAH. You know, that's the best way to describe that. Look at this word, unzip. See the ANZHB, you can see that. So it ain't hard to understand this Coptic at all. You know, and you can actually learn it by studying side by side the transliterations, you know, and the actual alphabet here, because once you become more familiar with, okay, well, we see this here, this is letter Y. Okay, we see this here, this is the letter, you know, O in certain cases, this is W symbol here. Okay, we see that the A is there, but it's really silent. It's actually following in from the O, wo, you see? And then you have the T, which is basically a regular T. We already know this is a H again, H. Oh, I'm just going in the opposite direction now. You know, so y'all get the point here. You know, and then these are the actual translations of these words. But this word away, you know, seems like it actually goes close to the word one as well. You see? So that's just certain measures on it. So study this document that I sent to you, Moorish King. Because we're gonna have some exercises that our Moorish King can bring forth in the completion of this particular lesson here. You know, here are all your little, a lot of these different so-called Greek organizations, you know, they come from the alphabet, the names that they use here. Okay. Trying to find that particular one I was looking for earlier. These were definite articles here: the chair, the Father, the Son, the Virgin. There it is. Okay, those are the numbers. One particular drawing in here. Yeah, right here that I wanted to point out. For example, Kemi. Look at what they refer to this as, Egypt. So we can see where the word Kemet, you know, in alchemy, you know, we can see that this word kept its origin as well. We can see the proof that this language, Coptic, is indeed linked to its parent system, Ra'em in Kemi. And now this is very important too, because it's saying Egyptian Coptic, but actually, remember I told you, I speak of the Ra'in Kemet as being the true language of the Egyptian. See, this is right here in the Coptic language here. You know, they got Ra'im America, you know, American, Ra'imin, you know, so all this Ra'imin demonstration here, it goes straight back to the ancient Kemetic, and it's as Kemetic as it want to be. But just the fact of seeing Kemet here, you know, powerful demonstration. like this word, paekristos is what it is, which is their word for Christ. But we know the word Christ is actually in the Kemetic language. You see the word Christ, which is where they get the word Christ from. You see? But that's a whole nother mention. Something we can get into, you know, at a later period as we move along. Oh, and also too, angelos, you know, which comes into angel. You can see the similarity in that right there as it is. So yeah, you know, and this is actually the Lord's Prayer down here in the Coptic language, you know, but I just love to look at this demonstration, you know, and see when it speaks of kingdom, you know, it speaks of the kingdom, right? The kingdom is known as Maresi. You see, this is a place, and it makes me think also of the link into the name Tamare, the word Maresi here, right? That's just powerful demonstration. I just wanted to point that out. This is a place. So that M and R actually always has to do with a person, place, and thing. So we can see by these elements, Moorish Ken, these basic things that I have shown here, that the Coptic is indeed connected to the Kemetic language, but we can also see, you know, what a remix or the remix came in later. You see, so study this document, you know, and if you want to, you know, you can come into a studying of even the Lord's Prayer, so to speak, from the Egyptian standpoint. You know, ain't nothing wrong with learning that if you wanted to, but that's just on your choice. But I'm just showing you different measures here. There's another drawing that I want to show you here. And I'm finna pull up two books that I have right next to me, tangible, to show you what I mean when I say that these people like to basically steal our culture and claim it as their own. And then that in which we write, they want to cast it out. Hold up real quick. I got all these documents here, and I think this is the one that will let me look at all of the ones that I'm trying to show you. And this is actually the document dealing with talking about Nubian or old Nubian. And listen to what they say. They say emphasis has been on Egypt, but has included Nubia insofar as it lay within the Egyptian sphere of interest. This research has had, it say, to cope with a time span of 5 millennia and 4 written languages and their variants, each with its own distinct graphic phonemic system. A chain of evidence may link written sources in hieroglyphic, Demotic, or Coptic Egyptian to hieroglyphic or cursive Meroitic. And they add in the hieroglyphic and all this type of demonstration here. But what it's talking about is Demotic. You see? It's talking about Demotic. So also Meroitic, you know, there's a cursive Meroitic script, which is, you know, the same as basically Demotic. But they're saying that all these things here, when you look at the link between them, it say to others in Arabic, and then to connect with the current research on the Nubian group of Northeast, the Sudanic languages. In this philology, it says must work hand in hand with historical linguistics. And we done demonstrated that. We showed you that Arabic was connected to the Demotic language. We showing you that the Coptic and all these things. I just demonstrated that a few minutes ago. You know, this is what they are speaking of here. It says the following remarks focus on a subset of place of names which appear to be specifically Nubian in form and not to be loans from Greek or Arabic sources. You see, because they always trying to talk about the Coptic borrowed this from the Greek, you know, but this one, you know, in this particular measure, demonstrate measures that were not loan words of Greek, they were purely Coptic, just like I showed you in our slide earlier. It says a list of those names are largely garnered from the database of the medieval Nubian texts. DBMNT. It says in the other as Casa Ibrahim publications is now appended below. Only a few old Nubian place names presently have plausible etymologies. This may be largely because the number of words currently found in the Old Nubian lexicon is not rich in terms likely to be used when creating a toponym, which is plant names, features of a landscape, ancient geographical statuses, terms, right? Then it says, but also because there is probably still something to be learned about the structure and phonology of word formation in Old Nubian. You know, and this is a document dealing with the studies of the Old Nubian language, right? And then they go to showing certain words. Remember that language that I just showed you when I showed you them individuals in the boat sailing, when I was showing you the HEKAPTAH, you know, and you see the alphabet again, this is that same alphabet. They got transliterations over here and everything. And as you can see, a lot of these transliterations, they look very similar, you know, to the actual alphabet when you compare. It's just that simple when it comes to it. So even when we looking at this HEKAPTAH again, we can tell this Old Nubian, you know, it's not hard to learn. It's not hard to learn, family, but definitely it's the same alphabet. It's most definitely the same alphabet. And these are just different words in the language. Can you see that screen just changed to a different chart, family? I want to make sure that y'all see this so I ain't thinking I'm explaining something else.
Islam.
What does that, does it say short archaeological word list in English, in Sudani Arabic,
Yeah.
and Nabi?
Islam.
Okay, I want to make sure. You know, so here's another document, and it's very long. I don't want to go into trying to explain the whole of it, but this is actually showing you the links over here. You know, for example, it says here, introduction in Sudan, the excavations concentrate on areas which were either administered by Pharaonic Egypt. Now, you know, when you talk about Pharaonic Egypt, way before the Romans and the Greeks, right? But sometimes, man, or which were in contact with it. This is approximately the area that is traditionally inhabited by Nubians. And the ethnicity of a long-standing tradition, often enough, the local personnel of excavation does not speak and understand English, not to mention other European languages, but Nubians often have a greater or lesser practice in colloquial Arabic. Therefore, it is advisable for excavators to acquire at least a basic vocabulary of this language. But you will also wish to have an idea of the Nubian language. Not all Nubians have a sufficient knowledge of Arabic. You know, and in this particular document here, you know, it talks about the Nubian, a Nabun. Now, this is the same area what we would call the language of the Meroitic, you know, Cushites was learned and taught, so to speak, you know, which they have a symbolic expression in their alphabet, you know, but when you go into, you know, these measures dealing with this Old Nubian, they are actually showing connections to not only Sudanic Africa, but Sudanic Arabic. You know, and Sudanic Arabic is another way of saying Egyptian Arabic. So here the Old Nubian is being compared to Egyptian Arabic, which I told you was the last form after the Coptic. You know, when another language come into manifest, that Egyptian Arabic is the dialect that we use to express our pronunciation, as that was the type of Arabic that I learned from the brother who taught me Tajweed, or the proper pronunciation of it. You see? So it ain't strange that there are comparisons being made between Sudanic Arabic then and what we call Old Nubian or HEKAPTAH. Because if HEKAPTAH came and then the Egyptian Arabic came after that, and it's been Arabic ever since, then it will make sense that they have some relation. And they're using the term here, Mahasi Nubian as well. See, Anabin. You know, Mahasi. And Mahasi has to deal with that particular place up there in that area, the Nubian people. There's a place known as Mahasi. There's also in this area, the Mahasi, actually, the lion deity is expressed there, one known as Apidimak. You see, Mahes. Mahes is a lion deity in Kemet as well, in the same area of the Nubians. You know, but that's a whole nother measure. So I'm just showing you these things, and we'll get this to you too, because these are like Arabic terms, but they are showing their connections, you know, to the terms in Old Nubia and so forth and so on. Okay, it's another document I have under here. This is one of those documents that you have to watch out for, because though they admit about 28 alphabets, you know, you will see they demonstrate on the alphabet being based on what they call a Greek, and then they throw the Coptic model in there. You see what I'm saying? This allows us to suppose that the first translators of biblical texts, see, this lets you know why they throw the Greek Coptic. They weren't going to say it was Coptic and then tell you that it was a translation of some biblical text. But if you get into biblical texts, we know they go back thousands of years. So this is another evidence. So, oh, you mean to tell me they got a lot of, you know, biblical texts that are, you know, transliterated from the Coptic? What's going on? And they've been throwing me out, telling me it was the Greek. What's really happening? Oh, we see now you don't want it to be known that it was the ancient Kemites, you know, that you got these things from, which will reveal really a Kemetic nature in some of those teachings that you like to call biblical. And it would make sense because Yahushua was there 18 years. So it would have to be some Kemet in there, just like it's some Kemet in our circle 7. Make you think, don't it? It says a total of 23 signs are of Greek origin and 3 signs as well as diacritical marks are copied. See what I'm talking about? They want you to believe that the majority of the alphabet, you know, is Greek, and a little small piece is copied. When we just showed you that ain't the case. But I'm just showing you, it says these signs, these 3 signs that they claim to come from, you know, the Coptic, is saying in all likelihood are from the Meroitic script, and they are not attested in Coptic. Now you got one of them saying that it's coming from what they call the Demotic, and then the other now saying they're coming from the Meroitic script. So which one does it come from? If this is supposed to be a Greek alphabet that adopted some Coptic, you know, a few Coptic loan letters, so to speak, you know, is it Demotic that was adopted, or is it Meroitic? A Meroitic, you see? But it's still a worthy document to come in here and study some little things as far as dealing with the NUBIAN. We just have to be able to separate truth from falsehood, you know. And here's a prime example of what we sent out to the Moorish kin, of showing you some early Christian texts that were written, you know, in this special language that is here being called Old Nubian, which we again are referring to as the same as HEKAPTAH, you know. And these are actual, like, records, actual texts here. Had we not had a knowledge of this being HEKAPTAH, you know, we would still be looking at, you know, these writings like this right here as Greek when we see it. But now that we know better, we can do better, right? So all of these are different excerpts of the text. Look at the text. The only difference is the style of the writing. But family, this is what most people like to call Greek. But here, this is a document that is not considered Greek. Again, it's considered, you know, Old Nubian. You see? And these are whole texts that are translated. They got the translation in here, what they say, but I'm just showing you, again, you know, they ain't never taught this type of stuff right here, Moorish kin, to the people. Never will. You see? It even goes into a translation here, you know, of a particular breakdown, you know, of all the texts. So you can go through here and read it, you know, Nubian texts of the Christian period. So, and this stuff right here ain't in the Bible now. We just want to let that be known as well. Maybe pieces and bits of it is, you see, but this is the true legend that they base their books upon. They take portions of this stuff, you know, that they want to accept, and they reject the rest of it, so to speak. You know, and this is dealing with a translation of something with one by the name of Saint Minna. You see? So this even talking about the Nicene canons, and we already know how they demonstrated over there. This is a whole document, Moors, that you can go through and just do some deep read. You know, read into it. And that's the thing. We want to give our family even, you know, this is special measure in the homework assignment, you know, to go through this particular document and see what type of findings that you can come out with. Hold on real quick here. This is the last document that I had here. This was actually dealing with Demotic though. So we'll save this for the time of dealing with Demotic, but I will say, because we're going to be going into that after we get out of this language here. You know, remember, we tracing ourselves all the way back, you know, through the language. And this gives us a basis, because masterminds are able to trace themselves back, and thus they know. This is dealing with, they show you that they got the words that were transliterated from Coptic in here. But you can really just see the transliteration without the vowels in them. So y'all know how that stuff read in most cases. They showing you side by side comparisons, you know, of these things. That's neither here nor there. I want to get into this portion. This is the portion I want to really expose to our Moorish kin, because our Moorish kin like to get works. Now, when you speaking of Coptic in Old Nubian, Ethiopic, or what they call Giz, ain't far behind. You see what I'm saying? Also, what we call Himyaritic. We showed you this was the original language of the Arabs. The original Cushites, they dealt with Himyaritic, you see, and Mudar, right? So when we talk about Amharic, you talk about Giz, Gez, this language is most definitely related to Old Nubian, hands down, no doubt, minus doubt or contradiction. But there were also many texts that were translated from Ethiopic as well. For example, the Book of Enoch, which was said to have been found inside of the Ark of the Covenant. You know, this is how it arrived, you know, to their possession. And we know Queen Sheba, you know, who we know Ethiopia, another name for it is Sheba. You see Abyssinia, you know, same thing. You know, we know Ethiopia, according to us, means something divided. But nevertheless, when you get into this special language and these texts, I'm finna show you proof on how these European demonstrate. This is the Book of Enoch, the prophet, right? This was written by R.H. Charles. And in this particular Book of Enoch, which I got some of the Book of Enoch also in, where is that? It's around here somewhere, but I showed it to the Moors before, the other Bible that I got over here. You know, they got many books in it. Now, in this book, they give a side-by-side comparison in the translation of what they call Greek on one side, and then the other side, they put the letter E there for Ethiopian translation. So what I'm gonna read from this particular measure is certain measures where they translated and did a comparison between the so-called Greek and the so-called Ethiopian translation, right? And watch how close the translation is. So this is from the Ethiopian translation, right? You know, and when you saying that, remember this is linking back to Old Nubian, HEKAPTAH, you know, you can go off into all of them. So it says, and there was in it, and this is actually coming from speaking about Sheol. For those who are familiar with Sheol, you've seen that as the underworld, or they call it hell in certain cases, whatever the case may be, right? But it says, and thence went I in another place, and he showed me the west, This was Enoch saying that the Most High showed him, another great mountain and of a hard rock. He was basically being able to give the vision of seeing hell, Sheol, so to speak, right? It says, and there was in it a four hollow places, deep and wide, very smooth, and smooth are hollow places and deep and dark to look at. Now let's go over to the so-called Greek translation, which we know is really HEKAPTAH. That's the only thing that's going to be close to Ethiopic. You see, it's got to be the HEKAPTAH, not what they call Greek. It says, and there were four hollow places in it, deep and very smooth. 3 of them were dark and 1 bright, and there was a fountain of water in its midst. And I said, how smooth are these hollow places and deep and dark to view? Both of them saying the same thing. One is saying a little bit more emphasis, but both of these particular records being translated, into the same thing. How is this possible? You see, unless there is some overlap in the language, right? Now they got another here. Enoch went on, he said, then Raphael answered, one of the holy angels who was with me, and said unto me, these hollow places have been created for this very purpose, that the spirits and souls of the dead should assemble therein, and yet all the souls of the children of men should assemble here. And these places have been made to receive them to the day of their judgment, to their appointed period, and to the appointed great judgment comes upon them. Now, let me make an emphasis here, because you heard me say the word Sheol or underworld represented hell. Now, I'm finna show you something. Basically, this is talking about the grave family. So what the Bible has been telling you about as dealing with hell, Sheol, and trying to make you think this was a scary place to be and burning in eternity and all this here, right? This is referring to the grave. Sheol represent the grave. And the first people I ever heard teach that outside of Christianity was Jehovah's Witnesses. You see what I'm saying? They'll tell you Sheol is not hell, a burning place, it's the grave. You see, it's just a place where the body rests. So this hell that has been created as some horror story don't exist other than that. You see, other than a hellacious state of mind, so to speak. From that aspect, your mind can be a graveyard if you ain't careful. But nevertheless, when you go into this measure, it's telling you the place he was able to see. Enoch was shown this by the angel Raphael. Because remember, Enoch and Tehudi is one and the same. Enoch was taken on a journey through the heavens. They say he was took up in the heavens, right? Third heaven, in other words. Tehudi was took on a journey through the heaven. Read the Emerald Tablets. You can read the Emerald Tablets parallel side by side with the book of Enoch, and you can see the same consistencies. Only difference is the language that's being used in certain name, but it talked about the 7 angels, the 7 Elohim in the teachings of the book of Enoch. But then you go in the book of Tehudi, it talk about the 7 lords. It talk about how he was took up through the heavens and he was able to see this and see that. Go into MATHENO'S archives if you don't have the book dealing with the Emerald Tablets of Tehudi. It's right there. So if you were to study, and I really plan on doing this in the future, putting a side-by-side parallel comparison, between, these things, so we can actually identify, the exact happenings, so to speak, and show these people that we already know that Tehudi is universally accepted as being Enoch across the board when it comes to those who know. This is like common knowledge. It ain't no secret. And that's why Tehudi was the first messenger that was sent to the Kemites. You see, Moses wasn't sent to him. Tehudi was the one that was sent to him way before Moses came. So they had the original way of life. But later on, there was a deviation that took place. And a lot of that had to do with foreigners coming in. But that's another measure. So, like I said, in these two comparisons, he goes into the breakdown of it, again, giving you the so-called Ethiopic measure and then the Greek measure in comparison. It says in the Ethiopic measure, I saw the spirits of the children of men who were dead, and their voice went forth to heaven and made soup. Then I asked Raphael, the angel who was with me, and I said unto him, the spirit whose it is, whose voice goeth forth and maketh it soup. Now, this was in the Ethiopic version. Now I'm gonna read the so-called Greek version, the HEKAPTAH, right? Because we know, again, ain't no Eurocentric thought being close to no African thought. It says, I saw the spirit of a dead man. That ain't no different than children of men who were dead. It's the same way how the chairman did with the Fatiha in the Moorish American prayer. That's basically what's going on here, family. You see what I'm saying? So it says, and his voice went forth to heaven and made soup. And I asked Raphael, the angel who was with me, and I said unto him, this spirit which maketh soup, whose is it? Whose voice goeth forth and maketh to soup the heavens? So family, it's basically the same translation in two different books. One's supposed to be Greek language, one's supposed to be Ethiopic. But we done told you that the Greek is really HEKAPTAH. So we can see the HEKAPTAH is definitely related to the Ge'ez, what they call in Ethiopia. You feel me? So when we go into this special drawing here, this is proof. Now my question is, who gave you the authority to cast this out of the canon of the books? Why did you throw this away from the books? Rome. Now they study this stuff low key. The Vatican do. But you better not get caught studying and you're gonna get excommunicated, kicked out that demon. You know they can't read what they want to read over there. Like literally for real. There was a time I had a European. We was in the Dismal Crips. We was in a faith-based dormitory. His name was Mitch. And I was building with this one. And he was like right next to me. And we was just building. And he was talking about how he came up in the Catholic Church, somewhat like the European female that was speaking. And he went to talk about how his people took part in enslavement, what they teach. You know, I was like, man, this European, here's some mayors, you know what I mean? Because he was telling the truth, speaking the truth. So he converted to Islam based upon what I was teaching him, right? I'm gonna show you what happened. He used to be the tattoo man in there. He stopped tattooing. You know what I mean? This one come up under the drive in the draw and end up becoming faithful to the way of life. And it made a lot of people mad at me because he wasn't doing tattoos for him no more. I didn't tell the man to stop tattooing. All I did is have a conversation and talk to him, and he accepted Islam. And then what really made him mad, because they were trying that this time, they were trying to say that I was trying to start a black militia, because you know Homeland Security came in and all this here. They tried to, yeah, they were trying to get your brother back then, Morris Ken. You know, because you named the street organizations. I had the Bloods, the Crips, the Latin Kings, all of them in one setting. I'm teaching them. European talking about, hey, y'all got to break this up. I mean, we ain't trying to stop you doing what you're doing, but you just can't be here in one group. You got to break up in groups of 5. Well, how are we going to teach what we're trying to teach if 5 over here and 5 over there? But you letting them people under that gazebo over there gamble, and you got your foot up there watching them gamble. And you can't even get up under there. They in a mass group, but I'm over here teaching these people just because they at the bleachers and I'm on the bottom of it. Y'all want to come at me like I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something good for the Penal Institution. You know, teaching. See, this is stuff that our Moorish kin, you know, my pre-measure coming into the government's trials I had to go through. But nevertheless, you know, it was so crazy. I say, all right, I'm finna really make them upset now since they want to try to make me look like a radical. Yeah, the warden came in there, Moorish kin took away anything Islamic. Because we really didn't have nothing Islamic in there, really, anyway. But like they had Nation of Islam tapes and Eyes on the Prize series. And I would utilize some of these things to teach, you know, the people I was teaching, you know, like historical stuff. European come and took all that up out of there. Let me get that. The warden came in on my class one time I was teaching, you know, and I kept teaching because I wasn't teaching nothing radical like tear up, you know what I mean? But somebody was feeding them information, you know, and they went and got a brother that was from the street, come from the same background I come from, but he was Christianized. And he had 22 years and they put him in a low security place to try to curtail what I was doing in there, basically. They changed the amount of time we could speak because I wouldn't teach out of the Quran, right? I wouldn't teach out of the Quran. I would teach them basically Islamism out of the Bible. You know what I mean? Straight out of their book, because I knew it was going to be conflict. And what ended up happening, Morris Ken, they took the time, cut it down. You know, they end up Attorney General coming there from Tallahassee, you know, the capital. Came one day, badge on the book and everything, looking through my stuff. I don't know what he was looking for, because I don't do nothing illegal. You know, and he came in there, went in there and walked out. Wasn't going to say nothing to me or nothing more. And he said, I say, excuse me, gentlemen. I said, you just went through here and all my personal belongings. You ain't told me who you is, you know, what's the issue or whatever. You ain't did nothing wrong. You ain't got nothing to worry about. I say, oh, you ain't got to worry about me doing. I say, you know what it is. If you looking at me like that, you know what I do. You know what I stand on. Ain't no secret, you know. And I said, I ain't got nothing to hide from you. I say, I don't participate in illegal activities. I don't deal with no drugs. You don't see me out here acting crazy. And I've been like this since I've been in the district crib. I'm mostly by myself, unless I'm building or teaching somebody, you know. So found out through the chaplain, who was a good fella. He let me know that somebody had came and they were trying to link ones to terroristic acts, all type of crazy stuff. Went to the warden and talked to him directly. And I asked him about it. He was like, well, you know, we got individuals saying, and I say, man, do I look like I know anything about Saudi Arabia? When you see me, I'm by myself, you know. But this was somebody in the community, Islamic community, that was upset with me. I spoke to you about this brother before. And he was trying to have them people come down on me, so to speak. But nevertheless, I say, I know I'm gonna really make him mad. Now, Mitch was full-fledged into the way of life. I'm gonna put this European in front of me and let him lead us in Salah. Hey, and so what happened after that, that really upset him. You know what I mean? Because now they like, wait a minute, I thought he was talking about killing the Europeans. And I ain't never taught no teaching like that. But just because I was able to reach that youth that was violent, they thinking I got to be dealing with some violent content. You see? But nevertheless, Morris Ken, I'm showing how Rome is when it comes to the truth. You know, things that they do to try to hide the truth or bury the truth, you know, and keep ones away from what it is, especially when you bring in the truth. So when you get into dealing with a lot of these documents and doctrines they bring on the manifest, they hide this stuff. They take it away from you. And then if somebody has the ability to bring it to the manifest, first thing they want to say, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. He's dealing with pseudoism. You know, like I said, now they got this thing what they call it disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation. This is something that they start now. And they, you know, they want to try to consider these things terroristic. Telling the truth is terroristic now. So again, going back to this book though, it says, and he answered me saying, this is the spirit which went forth from Abel, whom his brother Cain slew, and makes his suit against him until his seed destroyed from the face of the earth, and his seed annihilated from amongst the seed of men, right? It's talking about Cain and Abel here, right? Now it gives a comparison here. It says, this is the so-called Ethiopic, or the portion that's dealing with geese. It says, then I asked regarding all the hollow places, why is one separated from the other? And he answered to me and said unto me, these three have been made that the spirits of the dead might be separated, and such a division has been made for the spirits of the righteous, in which there's a bright spring of water. It says, and such has been made for the sinners. When they die, they are buried in the earth in judgment, and has not been executed on them in their lifetime. Here their spirits shall set apart in this great pain, until the great day of judgment and punishment and torment of those who curse forever the retribution of their spirits. Then he shall bind them forever, and such a division has been made for the spirits of those who make their suit, who make discloses. And it says concerning their destruction. It says when so basically, you know, it goes into the aspect, it says, make their suit who make disclosures concerning their destruction when they were slain in the days of the sinners. It says, such as has been made for the spirits of men who were not righteous, but sinners who were complete in transgression. Of their transgressors they shall be companions, but their spirits shall not be slain in the day of judgment, nor shall they be raised from thence. And then I blessed the Lord of glory and said, blessed be my Lord, the Lord of righteousness, who ruleth forever. Now this is this particular translation, right? But then when you go into the so-called Greek, HEKAPTAH, what we know to be the truth, then I asked regarding the hollow places, why is one separated from the other? And he answered me saying, these three have been made that the spirits of the dead might be separated, and this division has been made for the spirits of the righteous, in which there's a bright spring of water. And this thus has been made for sinners when they die and are buried in the earth, and judgment has not been executed upon them in their lifetime. Here their spirits shall be set apart, and in this great plan. I ain't even got to keep going on more, because you like, well, you're reading the same thing, ain't you? You know, so basically in this book, which the visions of Enoch has to do with him being able to see certain things that even was fulfilled in the book of Revelation. He's seen these things before the book of Revelation had manifested them, basically. You know, he was able to go through that journey in the heavens. He didn't die a physical death according to the Bible. According to the Old Testament, Enoch didn't die a physical death. Tehudi, you know, was said to be taken up. You know, so when you look at these parallels, this is a powerful demonstration. And we know, again, they was taken up in the third heaven. So the measure has to do with one going into this state, being able to read the book of Allah's registry, and these visions become what is manifest as to what he wanted to teach man. Like in the book of Enoch, one of the things it said that the angels, it talked about the 300 that fell. It talk a lot about the Elohim and Nephilim. That's what it talk about in this book. But it says that that third that fell, you know, the 300 as they like to call them, it said that when they fell, the main punishment that was brought to them is because they slept with the daughters of men, for one. And then another measure saying that they began to teach men things that they wasn't supposed to know. Like it say, he taught man to write with the pen. When man wasn't supposed to write with the pen, he was supposed to infirm his faith within his heart. That's what it says, you see. In other words, we supposed to have the truth in us. It's supposed to, but they taught us the writing arts and so forth and so on. You know what I mean? But it goes into a whole bunch of different aspects, you know, and I'm talking about the Babylonian writing arts, you know, the spread in them in all different dialects and all that type of stuff, you know. So all this measure comes on the manifest, and it causes a scattering of the language, or babble, or confusion, and so forth and so on, you know. And so when, that's why I tell you, when Tehudi was teaching, he was teaching metaphysically. You know, when he was teaching them simple, he was teaching you self-mastery. These are formulas to be understood, you know. But that's a whole nother measure in and of itself, you know. And we had to be brought back to the knowledge of who we are some type of way. Praise Allah for allowing one to come to Kemetic and start put one on the path. He's like, all right, they done failed, so we're gonna bring one on the manifest that's gonna get y'all right. You know, and they still mess that up too. Like the chairman said, they'll mess up a soup sandwich. Islam. Now, this is the next book I have right here. Now, my thing is, again, about this book of Enoch here, you know, the one that I'm talking about. This book of Enoch, and I'm gonna hold that at an angle because you might be able to see it better if I do it like that, because it do change up on me. I ain't never been successful to do that. But nevertheless, this book of Enoch, my question is, why did you take it out of the canon? Who gave you the authority to say that it's pseudo? Well, you said it's pseudo because you knew it was written by non-European people. That's why you said that. You see? That's why you said that. But now you want to have Europeans translating the demonstration and making money off of it. Boy, I tell you, these people, something else. Ain't that something? They'll lock you up and write your autobiography and make money off you after you die. This cold-blooded, boys, kid. This is cold-blooded. But you can't make no money off yourself, man. So here's the other book, the book of Yasha, or the book of Hasha, Yashahar. And you can actually see the Kemite on here doing some surgery. They actually got the Kemite on the page with, you know, the scaffold finna go to work on this one. And they got the jars up on it, the canopy jars, that actually has the heads of the seeds of Heru. If you ever seen the 4 children, the Amseti, you know, and then it has all of those 4, it has those jars there because they said that the Kemites would put all the organs, you know, of those whom they were cremating, so to speak. Not cremating, but getting ready for the burial, they would put them in these jars. You know, that's where they would put them at. But nevertheless, in this book of Yashahar, this book is so powerful, right? This book taught mainly about the Canaanites and the Moabites. It's a lot of unwritten history, but the crazy thing about it, more, the beginning of the book read basically like the 5 books read. They read just like the books of Moses, basically. You know, it starts here though, where God makes man, you know, and he makes him in his likeness. But you know how I always say that the first day was really the 7th day. They actually picked that up just like that in this particular book when it started off. You know, when I say like the ayats that's in, the verses that's in Genesis chapter 2, verses 4 through 7, where the Kemetic would be at, or that first man that was made before the plants and the trees, I was saying that should be in Genesis 1. They actually have it in here similar to that, the way they run it down briefly in the story. You know, this is a powerful demonstration. It started off by saying this, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. And God created man in his own image. Remember how I said that Adam Cod man was made in the image of God, but man, the physical man, was made in the image of Adam Cod man. So he made man in his own image in this book. In the Bible, it said that man was made in the image of the Elohim. See the difference between the two? Elohim made the one on the physical man on the 6th day, right? But that man that they speak of in the 7th day, that was supposed to be made before the plants, before the tree, the chairman pointed out in the book of fire, when he talked about Isha, Adam God man, right? That's who it's talking about, the Cogmanites. That particular God man, flesh divine, was made in the image of God himself. He wasn't made in the image of man. He wasn't made in the image of the Elohim. That man on the 6th day was made in. So this book, it reads and it says, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and God created man in his own image. And it says, and God formed man from the ground and blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul endowed with speech. That's the part in Genesis chapter 2, verses 4 through 7. It said that he breathed into him the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So they placed that particular portion in the beginning, like it's supposed to be in this book here. Oh, but it get greater. They actually mention Africa in this book. You ain't never seen the term Africa wrote in no Bible. You ain't seen them say nothing about no, I'm talking about literal scriptural passages in here. Not a description and commentary, but they mention Africa in here. You know, the African wars with the Moabites, the wars between the Africans, and I'm just using the, you know, the terminology, which we know that they will probably refer more to, you know, the Cushites, you know, as far as the true language, but the translator used the word Africans, you see? And so it deals with the wars, but it went on where it talked about how he, you know, fell into a deep sleep and point B, Morris King, it tell you certain history. Like it tell you how Abel was killed, Cain killed Abel, but it tell you how Cain ended up dying. You know what I mean? It talk about the wives that they had, that everybody always question, where do you women come? It got all this stuff in here, right? So it's reading all of this same book. A lot of the history is very similar to what's in the Piscean records, the 5 books, but it has certain history that has been taken out or stricken from the record. Like I said, when you get further up in it, they go to talk about the Moabites and Canaanites in Africa and all of that, but it tells you the same story about Moses and them and what they did and all of that. But in this particular part here, this right here, this was the icing on the cake here. They was talking about Egypt, right? And listen to what it says. It says, and the king and his subjects loved Rakim for his wisdom, and they consulted with all the inhabitants of Egypt to make him perfect under the king. And all the inhabitants of Egypt, it say, and his wise men did so, and it was made a law in Egypt. And they made Rakim, Pharaoh, perfect under Osiris, king of Egypt. You mean to tell me they mentioned the name Osiris in the book? Or Osar? You ain't never seen that in the Bible. You ain't never seen that, family. So it says, and they made him perfect under Osiris, the king of Egypt. And Rikion, Pharaoh, governed over Egypt daily, administering justice, it says, to the whole city. But Osiris, the king, would judge the people of the land, it says, one day in a year, when he went out to make his appearance. It says, and Rikion, Pharaoh cunningly usurped the government of Egypt, and he exacted a tax from all the inhabitants of Egypt. And all the inhabitants of Egypt greatly loved Rikion, Pharaoh, and they made a decree to call every king that he should reign over them, and their seed in the Egypt and the Pharaoh. And therefore all the kings that reign in Egypt came from that time forward were called Pharaoh unto this day. But it even go into telling you the time when the Hyksos come in here. You know, when the remix came in here. You know, this book here is something else. You know, all this took place, you know, and then it runs down the history of Tubal Cain and, you know, Cain and man, everything that you done read about, but detail. You know, this book right here. And guess what? It come from a Coptic text originally. So who gave you the authority to throw this book of Jasher out? You know the crazy part about it, Morris King, these books, the Gospel of Barnabas, like books like the book of Yashahar and Enoch, a lot of these books are actually mentioned in the Bible itself. Like it tell you, it's written in the book of Jasher. It say that in the Bible itself. Well, where's the book of Jasher? Nobody know. It's right here in my hand now. You know, or they speak of the Gospel of Barnabas. You know, Barnabas right there. It's written in the Gospel of Barnabas. But now the Gospel of Barnabas is on the manifest. Don't nobody want to read the book of Barnabas. So if you want to accept one part of your book and reject the other, you know, because it don't agree with what your theology is, that's disingenuous. But to cause a whole bunch of people to suffer war and fighting and killing up people because you want to hide the truth, that's one of the most demonic and devilish things you can do. That's right along the line in human trafficking. You see what I'm saying? Taking a people culture from them, robbing somebody of their culture. That's a crime against humanity. They got upset with our sister Whoopi Goldberg because she made a statement when they were speaking about these so-called Jews. You know, and the book say that those who say that they are Jews but are not, they are none of the synagogue of Satan. I didn't say that. The Bible said it. So you're going to ban the Bible? You're going to get rid of the Bible? But nevertheless, the sister just said that act in the Holocaust was not an act, you know, against the Jews per se, but it was a basically act against humanity. It was inhumanity, man's inhumanity to man. She was trying to get them to see a bigger picture and they jumped on it. Oh, you saying the Holocaust wasn't real? You know, and get mad and then suspend her from that. When they talk daily about our people in slavery, you know, basically disrespectfully, don't want to acknowledge that we went through what we went through. Paid somebody else off that ain't even from here. And we got the debate about give reparations. You see what I'm saying? So this shows you the hypocrisy. But nevertheless, Morris Ken, I just wanted to show you, this is another one of the books that were cast out along with the books in the other Bible that I have. You know, there's a couple of them that was took out in there. Let's see, is this it right here? I showed it to our Morris Ken before. I got so many around me over here, Morris Ken. Y'all know I got my little library over here. But nevertheless, in that book, it has so many different other books. I think I might have left it out there in the living room. But nevertheless, we'll get to it at another time because we want to really open up the floor. I just wanted to bring these things to the manifest and to the light so that our family can see, you know, why it's necessary for us to write the history, you know, and pick up the history. You know, this is the grand drawing that we have on the manifest. This is our task that all of us have to come together and really demonstrate. And we're doing it as a team because if we really all get involved, all hands on deck, so to speak, you know, it ain't nothing that we can't accomplish. You know, teamwork make the dream work. Islam. So gratitude, Morris Ken. And at this time, what I want to do, if our chairman is on the manifest, want to call him forth where he can give his portion. And if not, we'll let our Grand National Secretary of the State come forth in Islamism. All right, Islam, Act 1.
Islam. Chairman's on a mission right now. First of all, I want to rise, giving all praises to our Father God Allah, giving honor to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and trying to get back to the beginning. Here we go. Giving honor to our Georgia Consulate, to our National Assistant Grand Chairman, Dr. Torre Simpson Bay, for providing the forum, to Dr. Patah Ra Anpu Ani Bati Bay for the Moorish American Prayer brought forth, for our Divine Constitution and Bylaws and Chapter 12 being read, and to all those that assisted in bringing forth our class. I think it was Dr. When we look at and giving honor to Act 1, giving honor to our host instructor, our National Assistant Grand Sheikh of Moorish America, Dr. Shedawa Menti El Mohed Chepsuel. Much gratitude to you, National Assistant Grand Sheikh. I'm trying to just collect my thoughts because there was just so much information being brought forth. And I want to give you much honor for continuing to bring back the HEKAPTAH, the Coptic language, Old Nubian, and showing us the comparisons because, as the prophet stated, I'm going to repeat myself. And this is how it becomes part of our nature, you know, and familiarizing ourselves with our own history because, you know, as all of our Moorish kin knew, none of this was given to us as we were coming up. So, and I know for myself in back in the 80s, 90s, just trying to do the research and piece together, had it not been for the chairman giving assignments back to back and daily, then I would not have been able to make these lessons a part of myself. So assignments, in essence, enable one to do the work, and it becomes a part of yourself. The keys that we're given in our class, it's imperative for us to, on our own time, bring it into manifest for us doing the research because this is how you receive revelations. And just in the books that you were speaking of, dealing with the Gospel of Barnabas, where it actually gave the breakdown of how Yehoshua was switched with Judas, and Judas was actually put upon the cross. But prior to that, before actually reading that, you had bits and pieces, but now we're able to put the pieces together in this puzzle as far as our history is concerned. And yes, it is very egregious when you see the depths to how the European nations went to hide the truth, to bury it, blow it up, to remix, and infusing themselves within our special history, and just having the foundation of everything came from us, period, and then it spread abroad. This is just a grand class and a grand measure, but I look forward to being able to become adept in being able to recognize the languages, write the languages, speak the languages, read the languages, and therefore be what I know and not have to go through somebody else's interpretation, because even in looking at the Quran of Muhammad, and the one I gravitate to is dealing with Yusuf Ali, as far as the various commentations, which open up another dimension. And I look forward to, from a Moorish aspect, based upon what the Prophet brought to us, being able to deal with the commentaries, the same thing that you have done, Dr. Shaheed, in reference to just the background behind you, and making it Moorish and taking us back to our historical foundation, which the Prophet told us to go back in mind to our forefathers' ancient thought. So this is just a grand undertaking, but it's something that is necessary, because I keep having visions of us creating more books, those books designed for our children, those books designed for those on a teenage level, for those coming into more science, because, when you change the language, you're changing the mindset of the people, and the Prophet brought us everything that we need, and so this is just a beautiful demonstration, because for me, it's taking the cobwebs and the dust out of something that is already ethereally within me. I just have to unfold and trust the higher self within myself. Just when you gave us the assignment in reference to just look at these glyphs, and what do you pull from it? And that is the pablum of us being able to receive revelations from on high and interpret coming from our higher self. But we need these foundations of our ancestors. And just the point of Enoch being Tahuti, which you said many times, but every degree is a higher round based on what our Prophet brought to us. So I want to give you much honor, Dr. Shaheed, and even looking at the Book of Fire from a higher elevation of how we always start our class with that, giving honor to the chairman, because Dr. Nefertiti and I often stated when he first created that book, where are we going to live? Because that time Moors were taking each other off the count. We're like, look, just drop the book, go on an island, let the Moors figure it out for themselves. I'm trying to deal with security mode. I ain't trying to get with none of them crazy people. But I just give praises to Allah and honor to the Prophet for us going into this step by step as a team, because no one is left behind. We are all here striving and learning, and for your patience and taking us through, this maze that Rome wanted to create. But when you come from the aspect of higher self, there are no hidden degrees. So gratitude more for just bringing this class forth, for all of my Moorish kin on this line that, keeps the Prophet out front and putting the work in, because this is not for us, the selfish self. It is for our people and the generations to come. So gratitude more. Just like their mess is important, ours is even greater. So gratitude, peace and love.
Islam. And gratitude, Grand National Secretary of State. You couldn't have said it any better. When we go into this is special draw, and that's the measure. Once we get everything what we plan to go to, once we get into the aspect of dealing with deciphering the language and reconstructing our language, You know, because that's what more is we got to look at the measure that we demonstrate. We basically unraveling thousands of years of indoctrination. You know what I mean? That has been imposed upon our people. And at the same time, we got to reconstruct that which has been torn away from us. Because some of our people just succumb and say, all right, we're going to settle with the English language. And that's it. Some people say, well, I think I can learn some Spanish. I can learn some Arabic. I can learn these things the way people done taught it, and that's going to suffice me. No, we need our own. And see, that's what we coming back to. We give honor to our brother Malachi York, because he tried in his own way to create a measure, but we see what happened to him. You know what I mean? Especially when he went to setting up shop over there, short stopping Six Flags over Georgia with his little demonstration. You know, people stopping there instead of going there. European like, this one done took all their money. No, we got to go find this one and shut him down. You know, so that's where a lot of his problems came from. But, you know, just the fact that us, like you said, we're going to have to sit down together and go into these books and begin to translate our own Moorish Holy Quran. You see, translate, you know, everything it is that need to be brought on the manifest in the Moorish way, transliteration with that Kemetic, you know, teaching there present, the proper teaching, you know, so that when our people come up through this demonstration, you know, they gonna know what time it is, you know. Even when it comes to telling Yehoshua's story from a Piscean record level, we're gonna have to be able to bring a measure on the manifest for those who buried in the Piscean records. We're gonna have to put that proper history in there, put these things in the proper context and bring that thing forth to the people, you know, so that they can study and read from it. You know, because what people don't know about what's so beautiful about Noble Drew Ali brought us is that he brought us a teaching that encompasses every teaching that our people done been exposed to over here in a small pamphlet. So Moors ain't in no rigid state of, oh, I got this doctrine. No, we deal with the lofty teachings of all of them. You see, all you got to do is look at our chart on the Islam Missile. You know what I mean? It's showing you, you know, like I used to tell people all the time back in the day, you know, even when I was studying the Piscean records and I was getting ready to transition out of that demonstration, you know, I would tell one, yeah, I believe in the book, the Bible, the original book, you know, but this one here has been tampered with. See, I knew that way back. I would teach it, but you got people that's in the Piscean record, they wouldn't dare say something like that out their mouth. You know, but that was part of my growth in being able to unfold and so forth and so on. And so that's what it is. We honor the pristine purity of all teachings. You know, we don't discriminate based upon the name of a doctrine or based upon what he said over here. No, we don't do that. Because that's basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying that something was wrong with the prophets. So we don't pit prophets against each other, you know, and make them rival each other. We don't pit master teachers against each other and make them rival each other, because each and every one of them had a specific job that they were called to do, you know, and it was all necessary in order for us to get what we have now. So, man, that's powerful, Grand National Secretary of the State. This is another one of them vibrations, you know, again, Islam. All is well. Well, all right, let us go to our National Grand Sheik, Dr. Serapis Amin Rael. Islam, you there, Grand Man? I see him down there. He really up here, but I see him on the panel. Islam, Sheik.
Islam, we rise and give a lot of praise. Then he rises, our holy prophet, in his industrious ways, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who came for us to be free, not to keep us in prison. Thank you, Prophet. Honors to our officials and our staff and our government, as well as our Grand Mufti, Assistant Grand Mufti, Grand Mufti Corps, divine ministers, student ministers alike, Royal Council, vice generals, and generals, various locations, ranks and columns. We give you honors. We give honors to a flag, red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center, draped with the 5 points, meaning there's 5 points to recognizing Allah, recognizing everything that is, was, never going to be. Amen. Let's give you honors to these things. We are definitely in accord with what's being put out, and we talked about this some time ago, that we need our own language. And you didn't get another step further. You said the universal language. Yeah, because our Father is the Father of the universe. And he's the first one that dropped the matter in the earth form, the man comprehend. He the first to show man how to write it with the tablets. And what he did, we got to do, and to carry the things through. I need to know, once again, the name of that book that you showed us, so we can be about the business of purchase. Also, you know, they got a systematic law now talking about there's certain things that can be taught and certain things that can't be taught in the public schools. They call it the woke now. And they actually threatening to lock ones up. Now, of course, it doesn't apply to us. We are independent and sovereign people. No, they're little guys, like you said, they don't want to know what they did to us during slavery and the murders they committed. They got access to all that information. Just like you went down in them archives of wisdom and come up out of that Atlantis with all kinds. Oh God, Islam, and ones is saying, oh my God, because you know, Mo, they got telescopes. They be reaching on these phones and things, and they say whatever one there is moving quick and moving precisely. And this is where, and it's a thing of guardianship, and it's a thing of protection. It ain't got nothing to do with one trying to show out or put out. No, we making sure that the one is supposed to go, he get out. Because he said I'll put this demonstration on the manifest because he got to take some water. And so he said, children, you are at home. That one right there is called all his problems. He's a stranger in your house, so to speak. He's 3,000 miles from home. And so, this being our house, not only do we have to get together with the language and the laws, or the implementations of it, but we got, like you said, we got to be solid on it. And I concur with that. Especially when it comes to, like the Book of Barnabas. That's a very powerful demonstration, you know. But I know that they also did some chopping and some sawing off with that lesson. You see, because you know they had that meeting. What was it in 525? Am I right with that? 525?
325.
325. I know he was close. That's almost akin to that birth record, ain't it? Huh. 325 AD, where them ones laid there and changed everything and told Barnabas, you know, to get on up out of the house and put a death warrant on Amos and a few others, you know, for spreading the truth and guarding it. And especially when that one talking about, I'm Caesar, I'm the God. No, you wrong. You out of law. That's what you are. You're not the God. You're not the great God. And so this is a history that is woven in cloth because all our, like you said, our credentials speak for that. You know, our enzymes speak for that. Everything that we've done speaks to that. Everyone that's on this conference call speaks to that. These are the ones who was long promised sons of the ancient Moabite bloodline. They're rising slowly but surely. But who am I to say that it's slow? Because you ain't been here to see the whole show. You don't know what went on to get us here in this part, and you had the nerve to talk about we not doing nothing. But what you bringing to the table but another complaint, and it ain't getting nobody fed. But yet and still, these ones that's out here right now, they solid. Talk about that rock. Yeah, and this is how one has to perceive themselves. They ain't got nothing to do with one hating one. We don't hate nobody, but we got to protect and secure that which is ours, and this belongs to us. I just got 3 grand new great grandchildren on the manifest. And these ones here is coming through this earth, seeing, knowing, and doing. These are babies. You know, I mean, coming into the context that they are rising here in this era of time. And so we have to be ready. Now I know that what's going on, see, it involves us to a big degree because the same thing that these ones are striving for, they try to reach in a collaborated aspect down here to touch us. See, this is why we have to be extra careful about how we walk. Because these are some trying times, dear boy. Prophet said, every weak man, tear down and drag out that true foundation stone. So we have to protect the property. We got to protect the house. We got to protect the people. We got to protect the officials. We got to protect ourselves. And this demonstration here, by us having that knowledge, gives us that extra or added strength that it would take for one to move on, to stay on, and carry on. Thank you, Sheikh, for opening up and sharing that with us today.
Islam. Islamism, Sheikh, we give honors to you for that grand drawing. Very powerful measure brought forth from our Father's treasures indeed. Ooh-wee. You know, and at this time, we give honors to all of our people. And ain't nobody gonna teach us like us. It takes us to teach us to be us. Islam. Well, all right. But let us call forth our Assistant Grand National Chairman, Dr. Torrey Simpson Bey, Islam, grand man. What have you to say?
Islam, family, Islam. I tell you, grand measure, definitely, Dr. Shaheed, like you say, hey, you brought forth another grand measure of information because, we got to give all praise be to Allah. We have to give honor to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, our divine apparatus, our Moorish American government, because if it wasn't for, like you say, even when we talk about our national enzymes, being the circle 7, we're talking about now in our questionnaire, question 21, how old is our flag, So as our National Grand Secretary of State was speaking, Dr. Septuagint Bey, and as our National Grand Sheik was speaking, it was just a measure. And we give honors to our National Grand Sheik of Moorish America, Dr. Serapis Amun Rael, bringing forth that divine measure as well, because it made me think about the question on the floor tonight as we began, how old is our Moorish American flag? And that master word is nation, and we are able to be and exercise the gods in us because we have a divine apparatus that our prophet said that, hey, he had to go around my elbow to get to my thumb to get what I want established to this government. He wanted to establish the divine and national movement in North America. So we're able to exercise the gods. We're not worried about somebody kicking in our door because we're a government. So, man, we give honor to you, grand man, for that measure, Bill. And I definitely got to go back to it. Definitely got to go back to it. The grand measure, long live Moorish America, Islam. You're speaking, Dr. We can't hear you, grand man.
Yeah, Islam. I was trying to get that mute button to come home, and there it go. Praise be to Allah. But gratitude, brother, for that drawing that you brought forth on the manifest. Powerful measure. Oh, and yeah, speaking too, brother, of our flag, I want to show our Moorish kin something. I had did my own little breakdown. We got the brother Ra El Bay working on some measures for us too. I just want to show the family, for all those who have heard, the falsehood of saying that, the symbol, that scimitar and star, wasn't present during the time of the prophet. That's a false measure anyway. The symbol was brought by the prophet. You can see it, the sister right next to it. You see, standing right there. So now that right there is an issue that a lot of our Moorish kin have been wrestling with, because they say Kirkman Bay came up with it. Nothing be further from the truth, but we're going to let our brother continue to do his editing. I had did my own editing to try to bring the symbol, because that's the actual picture here. You can see it, but it don't come all the way in. So I did some editing. He did some. You can see the silhouette of the image. So we know what that is. We know it ain't the circle 7. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, we look to see the completed work that our brother get through doing, once he done, brother Rael Bay. So yeah, everything belongs to us, Moorish kin. I even had a nothing too, also dealing with our flag, Moorish family. Where is it? Right here, I had put out here the other day. And this was a grand degree of unfoldment dealing with our flag. And I was showing our family that this symbol, scimitar and star, not only did it come from Kemetic, this is from the Book of Gates, actually. You see them here with that scimitar there. Because, we've been battling with these ones that been thinking that we have the symbol of Shriners. You see them up here. This is some old, inscriptions and what they got in their hands. Scimitars and stars, right? And then if you look back behind this, this is actually coming from the tradition of the Yoruba, where they have the crown with the scimitar on the top of it and the star, for the God man, Ashin Ashin is what they call them. Same as like Ishin Ishin, and it's 7 Orishas, like the 7 Elohim. So, I mean, no truth contradicts another truth. I don't care what language or name you put on. Now, this is a bonus right here for our Moorish. A lot of people look up here and they see, M and A, beneath the star that the prophet have on his sash here, right? And we can look at that in the sense of Moorish American, Moorish adept, master adept, whatever, Muslim, adept, however you want to see it. But there's something that's very important that one should know about this M&A. Because when you come here in the tetragrammaton, right, surrounding what they call the pentagrammaton, you know, this is a universal symbol. This ain't something that was created recently. It's old, but it came through the same lineage. It was in Kemet before it got to this point, you know, and you see it where I say Aliism, the highest initiation, which I sent Moors out, the document on Aliism, you know, which deal with basically what they call the Sefer Ali. You know, I like to say the 7 Ali, you know, in ancient Kemet, or, you know, the teachings of the tree of life, Adam Codd, man, all that is in that book. But you notice one sitting here, the eyes here, you know, you see all of this is symbolic to the form of man himself, arm, leg, arm, head. But at the base of this particular symbol, you see Ma, which is a part of tetragrammaton, you know, which deal with the 4-letter word, you know, that relating to expressing God's name. Allah can be considered a tetragrammaton because it's 4 letters, the A, L, L, and the H. And then the A is added as a vowel, you know, in that, just like Yod, He, Wav, He, you know, Yahuwah, as a lot of people like to say. But nevertheless, the scimitar is at the base or beneath the star here. Why is this so? You know, because this is actually showing you the potential of one's unfoldment. If Moors recall, I showed the Moors a picture of the scimitar sacrum and how the scimitar sacrum, the base of the spine, is where they say the Kundalini energy is kept, the serpent. This serpent is freed and released, rises all the way up to the crown chakra, and enlightenment ensues, right? This is how we teach and what we are taught. But that serpent in ancient Kemet is also depicted above a star. You see, so the scimitar is synonymous with that serpent that come forth from the base of the spine, known as the scimitar sacrum. You see, you forge your own scimitar and begin to ascend into the heights, and it becomes fixed in the consciousness, because that's all this represented. So by the time the prophet got that demonstration and it rotated, you know, it came back to the top. He was the first to uplift that demonstration. So we can symbolically see the M&A as really the scimitar. You see, he was the one to exalt his consciousness, you know, into his divinity when it come to us. And so what I showed was not only that symbol, but I showed that symbol again, but in another culture, in the culture of what we call, you know, the Hindu culture. This is the original from whence this one actually came. See the serpent consuming the tail, symbolic to the circle of life. See the scimitar there? You know, all this right here is taught in Dharmism. Amani Padme Hum is what they refer to this as. You see? Scimitar and star again. I designed this particular banner, you know, as a standard of representation of our brother Muhammad Ibn Abdullah, because he said that the angel Jibril gave him the scimitar, you know, which later became known as Al-Zulfikar, you know, the sword of Ali, right? And the 5 points you can see within it, Muhammad, you see Ali, Fatima, Hassan, and Hussein, because that's where all the esoteric wisdom came from. And those who were our ancestors, the Fatimid dynasty, you know, all of those who went into the Moroccan region of Mauritania, really, they came from that teaching. You see, the esoteric, that higher wisdom, you know, that's why it's a lot of Sufism that influenced our people. It ain't regular Al-Islam, you know, that we were drawing from. You know, it was always us being God, being one with God. That's the type of knowledge that was passed down. And so that's where the Sufism and all that come into play as well. Then I showed this Moorish coat of arms here, you know, which is really black and gold, but I changed it this color so that it would, you know, sit with what I had here, you know. But this is actually a Moorish coat of arms that was found in England. You see, scimitar and star, we see the clothes aspect. We were the one that came to open it. But we just showing you this was a Moorish symbol, And that's why you see me put Moorish there. And then I showed here, you know, the books dealing with esoteric mysticism, you know, dealing with the what they call the great brotherhood, the Hermetic brotherhood. You see the same symbol here. All these different sources, but everybody drawing off of the same thing. So when you go back to dealing with who we are, that's why I say the scimitar and star was brought by the prophet. The blue lodge usurper just moderated. But when you go into these symbols, because we got the brother now looking for the white, because it's a lot of ones standing by the prophet got white medallions on as well. And so that's one of the next projects we try and embark upon, you know, to show our Moorish kin that drawing as well. So we see that's the white medallion, and we also see camera, you know, can cause color and color changes, so to speak, as well. But nevertheless, third heaven, scimitar, the star. We know that's the confess right there. You can see a drawing of the confess up here above the star. And then we have the measure in which we honor, you know, our officials with. You see with the scimitar, the star, the heru bird, and the feathers and the wings, which is a symbol our chairman brought forth. You know, those feathers with the wings represent the swift angels. And so everything that we have come from us, family. We ain't demonstrating a remix. And of course, our flag, you know, it represents Islamism in essence. It represents the Moorish American nation in essence. You see, so in other words, we proven to these people, not only the existence of this demonstration, predating anything that you can call Western Freemasonic or Shrineism, but we also showing you can't alter this history. You know, the general opinion of men won't alter the nature of the truth. This ain't wishful thinking. That's a scimitar. That's what they call it, right? The confess. You know, so we just got to accept our own and be ourselves, Moorish kin. That's what we got to do. I even had a picture here where I was showing, I say the scimitar is a universal symbol of the Muslims, and it's indigenous to Islam, showing all the various nations that honor their scimitar in their different flags. We the only ones over here that got a problem with it, Muslims. And then I broke down to them here, letting them know the difference between our symbol and the Shriner symbol. You know, so more you can go check that out, you know, and you'll see that everything that we have belong to us. We ain't stole nothing, we ain't remixed nothing, you know, and none of that demonstration. You know, we just teaching our people, and well, everybody gonna be taught that need to be taught. Islam, gratitude. So at this particular time, what I want to do is I want to open up the floor for my Moorish kin so that they can come forth and give their portion. Islam, and we ain't drafting nobody. We gonna let our Moorish kin come forth if they will. In Islam, all right.
Islam.
Islam, brother Gerald Hamid Muhammad Bey.
Islam, gratitude, grand man, grand demonstration as always. Dr. Gerald Hamid Muhammad Bey, Consul General of South Carolina Consular Post Consulate. I want to give praise to Allah and honors to our prophet, honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and we'll give honors to our Moorish American government, to our Moorish American nation, and I will give honors to everything Moorish. I want to give honors to you, National Assistant Grand Sheikh, for always coming forth, as you would say, from Allah's treasures. It's a grand demonstration. We'll give honors to all of Act One and everything Moorish. I'm not going to be too long. There was so many things, like the National Grand Secretary of State had mentioned, you know, that you covered so much ground, grand man. But, you know, just a short while ago, you made a statement. And what it brought to my mind, you know, in especially the first part, you know, when you was going in the reading, dealing with the history of Christianity and everything, and dealing with the Bible and all that. There's a scripture which I'm sure that most of the Moors are familiar with, and it's dealing with Lazarus. And, you know, that's the story of Lazarus, you know, seemingly being dead. And you made a statement, and it was reflective of everything that you've been doing in this class. Because see, in that story, there's a depiction of Yehoshua, which is our prophet in this day and time, and Lazarus being seemingly dead. But Yehoshua tells him, no, he's only sleeping. And he calls Lazarus forth. But when Lazarus comes forth, now Lazarus hears the voice, like the prophet said, my sheep know my voice, right? A stranger will not follow. So we come forth. But when we come forth, being that we were in a state of sleep and dealing with the culture of that time, being wrapped, you understand, like you said, right? Everything that you are bringing forth is dealing with those bandages or those wrappings, being mummified, right, in the culture, the ideology, the lies, the distortions. So what came to my mind, right, and this is just a concept, that maybe, you know, a document could be put together in what you are presenting, Grand Man, right, and calling it the loosing of Lazarus of this new era of time, because this is actually what the teachings that you're bringing forth, Grand Man, is actually, that's actually what it is. Like it was said, it's the unwrapping, it's the unveiling, it's the resurrection, the resuscitation, everything that brings us from that dead state to make us conscious, especially when you go into the language, you mentioned the thing, and I give honors to Malachi York, because at least he did put forth an effort. You know, like you said, we know that the so-called Nubian that he came forth with was a combination of Coptic, Arabic, and the Metal Netta. But there was an attempt, and so they had to stop him. But see now, right, with the teachings that you're bringing forth, right, you're making everything clear, and we can actually see what actually happened. Because language is the basis of the communication by which they wrapped our minds up. You know what I mean? In that illusion. I mean, I hope I'm expressing this in the manner, because this is so exciting, right? And so it's man, it's like a revelation, Grand Man, you know, that I am a part and a partial of that symbolic story about Lazarus, you know, and the teachings, right, and the exposing that you're bringing forth is helping me as it's helping all other Moors, and how it would also help our people, the ones that have ears to hear, right, and a mind to be able to receive, to unloose themselves from that indoctrination, you know, knowing that, okay, well, Christianity didn't exist at one time. Judaism did not exist at one time. Catholicism did not exist at one time. So where do these things come from? See, that's why our prophet said if he could just get us to thinking, we'll free ourselves. That's really what I wanted to say, Grand Man. Is, you know, and especially now that this is what really hit me off. When you said that part about the unraveling, the first thing that came to my mind, Grand Man, you remember the video that you had posted up of our brother, the Moorish brother, Moorish kin, who had the dialogue with the Arab brother. So because he didn't have access or knowledge of this type of knowledge that we are being given from our Father God Allah through you, he was not able to properly defend the prophet. And this is what I thought about. I said, man, this is so very, very, very important, because like our prophet said, we got the pen now, and now, you know, we have to begin to rewrite. So I'm taking all this in, you know, like I said, it takes a little time, but I can really, there's some really jewels that I'm drawing from this, just on the common basis of talking. You know, well, brother, do you know, where does the Coptic come from? Oh, my sister, well, you know, where does Hebrew come from? Have you ever really paid attention to how there's such a similarity in the words? You know, have you taken time to research it? So this is where I'm at with this right now. And I just want to give you much honor, grand man, you know what I mean? Definitely, you know, like I always say, like you always say, everybody got a path that's chosen for them. And there's no doubt about it. Everybody knows, grand man, Allah raised you to do what you do. And you do it in a divine way. And we love you for that. Islam and gratitude, grand man. Peace and love.
Islam and gratitude, brother. Peace and love for that drawing. You know, and a lot of lessons, you know, will most definitely come out. And I'm gonna be honest with you, family. We're trying to get out more as can because we found a program that actually transcribe, you know, video into audio and audio into text. You know, and that's where I think we will be able to do better. And we ain't even got to tarry long. You know, I'm gonna get back into. I had a program I was messing around with it, but we need to put one of our secretaries that, you know, have a love for it, not one of our sisters that may, you know, have other things that she have in her that she want to do as far as other drives. You know, we can use her talents in that area, but one sister that is willing to take the time out and go back through a lot of these videos that we have and transcribe them into text and make them into pamphlet form, you know, and we can call them to come forth by light if we want to. But whatever the case may be, you know, that's something that I've been working at myself. So there's plenty of them out there, Islam. But at this time, speaking of sisters,
Islam, grand man.
Islam, brother.
Islam, okay, man, praise be to Allah. Being that you mentioned that, I know of a brother who actually is a Moor. You know, he knows he's Moor and he does videos. With your permission, I can reach out to him. He actually, he has some videos that he put together. He used to be with that brother, Rogers Bay, but he's no longer with him. That he's been away from him for a while. I could reach out to him with your permission and see if he would, you know, be willing to do something like that. I'm pretty sure he's very knowledgeable in that area.
Yeah, I would rather have this in the hands of a sister though, because the secretary is mostly answer to the Grand National Secretary of the State. And I would rather have it under a sister's watch, you know, and not somebody that's, I consider, outside of the circle of what we demonstrate. We don't want people taking what we're doing and trying to make money off of it. Not saying that that's what that brother gonna do, you know, but that's my intent. I'm telling you what my intent is, so you won't have to question.
I respect that. That's a security measure. Islam, gratitude.
That's right, Islam. So gratitude, brother, for the thought, though.
Peace and love. We love you. We love you, brother.
Yes, sir. Peace and love. We love you as well, brother. At this time, let us call forth Sister HEKAPTAH Bay, Islam, because she's been sitting there with her hand up, and we don't like to keep her waiting long. Islam, sister.
Islam, Islam, Islam. Honors has already been given. Gratitude for this wonderful class, God, man. I tell you, I'm just so excited. A couple of things that I wrote down. I give honors to you for this wonderful class. That video you showed about that European, you know, they telling our story, and that's what they do. They know more about us than we know. But the sad part is our people listen to them before they listen to us. I mean, we be saying the same thing. I'm like, what, I'm saying the same thing. What's the difference? But it's in the color of our skin and in our thought pattern. And also, when you talked about the Elohim, and I think about my journey when we were studying, and I was learning, and it's so amazing how what you was talking about this morning. Even Brother Edwards Bay, he was talking about in our class, he was talking about the beginning of Christianity and stuff. And I'm just watching how all of this stuff ties in. And we have our Book of Ali, and he used Brother Walter Williams. And actually, it's been a while since I read that, but even he got in there about the alphabets and stuff, and how they took our stuff. And what I'm so excited about is I already knew that we are the one that gave everything to the world. But what you are doing is, it don't matter if I know, but I got to be able to show our people how what I know, how we gave everything, but then how they twisted it and how they inserted themselves in it. And that's why I'm so excited about this class, because once the great God Allah, I know He gonna help me to comprehend all of this so I can show my people. Because if I had had this when I was coming, and I know all was in due time, but when I think about even when we were studying, when we saw that Elohim, we thought, and that's when I just had to just stop, because that was just too much for me to comprehend when I saw the word Elohim, because I thought Elohim meant the great God Allah. I thought that meant the great God. I didn't know that Elohim stood for, I didn't know that stood for the Elohims. I didn't know the difference between the great God, because even my pastor say, God got a God over him. And I'm like, oh no, I can't take all that. I can't comprehend all of that. See, I didn't understand all of it, but I see how the great God Allah and the prophet, I mean, he had me even back then, but we had this. But now that we're getting this teaching, and you're talking about putting these books together, and we going back teaching this, it's going to be so much better for us to share with our people. And I see now how the great God Allah will use me, because I can have compassion on my people, and I can let them know how I felt when I found out that my whole life was a lie, that Jesus wasn't real, and it wasn't no J's and all that. You can have compassion on the people when you've been through that, because you know what you went through, and you can help them. And also the book that you was coming out of, God man, could you give us the name of that book? Also, is that a book? Number one, is that a book that we can get now? Is it still in print or whatever? Can we still get that? Would you recommend for us to get that? Because that was powerful, what you was reading out of. And also, I want to make sure I understand our assignment for next Sunday. So when you want us to go through the slides and things that you already sent out, and compare and pick out, like you were showing us what to do. And the last thing, this don't have nothing to do with the class, but I want to, should I text you my email for the article yesterday to get about the duties of the officials? Can I text you my email? Because I thought I had that, but I can't find it. So Islam, gratitude for letting me share and ask my questions. Islam?
And gratitude, sister, most definitely indeed. I send it to you. I actually sent it to Saket them this morning.
Okay.
I thought they had found it, but they didn't, and they let me know. So I sent it to them, and I just forwarded it to you as well.
Please do, please do. I thought I had it, but for some reason, either I'm overlooking it or accidentally.
Well, what it is, I sent it to your consul general, and he basically has it, and it's really for the consul general. He's supposed to be doing the instruction, but we'll send it out to yourself so you can be knowledgeable as well. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It may take what you have as far as being knowledgeable is aid and assisting others. You know what I mean? With that clarity that you bring. Islam.
And the book, the name of the book that you was reading out of.
Yeah, I got it in my hand right now, right here. This is the book of Enoch. And book of Enoch, the prophet. And this one was authored by R.H. Charles. And they got both Ethiopic, as they like to call it, which is really Ge'ez, and the Coptic version, which they call in Greek.
Okay.
So yeah, it has all of that here as well. And this book here definitely a powerful book. Like I said, talk about the Elohim and everything else. But the other book is the book of Jasher.
Okay.
Not pseudo Jasher. It's one that actually has the Kemetic, like I said, got one on the table doing surgery on it. It's the only book like that. It's called the book of Yashahar. This is the book that refers to Noah's real name as Menachem. When you heard me use that terminology,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that comes from this, but deeper research shows that the word Menachem has Noah at the root, Nak, which actually goes back to ancient Kemet, Mina and Kim, Menachem.
And is that one of the books? Seem like I remember in the Piscean area in the Bible, it'll be telling you to look for this. To look for this book, but it don't be in there. It was a lot of them in there. They say, look for this book. We don't. I'm like, how can I look for it? It ain't even in your. Where's that?
Yeah, that would say it was written in the book of Jasher. They got that in the Bible. It's this passage that say that.
Oh, okay.
And this is the actual book of Jasher.
Oh,
they
okay.
got a real book. Then they got what they like to call the so-called pseudo books. You know what I mean? But anything they call pseudo, in most cases, our people wrote it. Yeah. So you can consider it, you know, of real material. It's they speak of it as such. So yeah, you got the book of, you know, Jasher or Yashahar and book of Enoch.
Okay. Gratitude.
Islam. Gratitude. Islam,
Brother Shaheed. Did you read the text I sent you just now in the chat?
No, brother, I'm speaking, so I didn't see it. I don't get no notification. Okay, I see it now that I'm looking at it. Okay, Islam.
Gratitude.
Yeah. You said today is our National Grand Sheikh's Manifestation Day.
Yeah, exactly. Islam. I just found out about that, and so I just wanted, let you know so everybody could be able to, extend that blessed, happy solar return and man to our National Grand Sheikh, Islam. I just want to share that. That's all.
Islam, indeed. Yes, sir. Happy Manifestation Day to our National Grand Sheikh. Islamism. So gratitude, Sheikh. And he always know the vibe is high. Islam. Well, all right. My beloved brother, Batibe, Islam. You see our brother been waiting patiently over there.
Islam. Praise Islam is already given. And one thing I would go into about this class and all the interpolations and misinformation and all this other stuff is that I remember going to church when I was younger, and them old Bibles, they would have grafted in when they were talking about that brother Joseph. They would have the word grafted in it when he was talking about the flock, separating the flock and taking them to Patmos and all that other stuff. Then when it got later on, you didn't see that no more in there, because after I guess that was just an aspect to show that there more people were becoming aware of the situation and maybe the origins that they have found. The other thing that I would when we're doing this is actually gonna help a lot, especially with the language. Even in the generation of our own language, like you said, you can't, if you are able to articulate in its origin, and you are able to articulate in your own tongue certain measures, that means that it prevents it from being usurped. They can't take something they don't understand, and all they're going to do is try to do what they always done. And that's why I like the fact that we're going into so many different languages, showing, because a lot of times, you may think a thing, but you don't know it fully. You may like the Greek. I've known that the what they called the Greek was actually Coptic, or I used to call it Abyssinian, Ethiopian, but to know it for a fact and be able to have the proof to, as you say, give them the receipt, that's a whole different measure. You can't deny when you got undisputable information. What else? And what else was I going to go into? The fact that I had it written down, but I'm not seeing it. We changed the misnumbered Greek to Nubian. When do you see? Oh yeah, when you were going over the letters and those certain words in HEKAPTAH, it sound like Latin. Some of that stuff sounds like Latin to me. When you looking at, even if you're looking at the I'm gonna say the Black's Law Dictionary. When you look at the Black's Law, there's some of that stuff, and I've been seeing people posting Moorish Latin, and they say they call it Black Codes Law. They said it's a dead language, but it links so much up to the Coptic in its phonetical sounding. You know what I'm saying? That you will see why that was a language used for it, because it links back to the Coptic aspect, which where the Latin get there, where the that Castellana that they speak over in, or what they call proper Spanish, and then you got the what they call the misnomer stuff that they speak in Mexico, you know, and it was just something that was going over my dial plate, and you know, with that I leave as I come in peace. This is Grand Measure Islam.
Islam, and gratitude, Grand Man, for that drawing. And just to share the screen, in that same document that I sent out to the Moors dealing with the Coptic language, it actually goes into that too. It says here, around 1500 BC, the Semites developed an alphabet which is based in the Egyptian hieroglyphic system. And they talking about what they call Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite, you know, the Moabitic, all that right there. But it says the Phoenicians, one of the Semitic people, perfected an alphabet around 1000 BC. Then they say the Greek alphabet, right? Which is, we know that's a remixing aspect there. But it says, which is the progenitor of the Roman Latin letters. It's really the Coptic that's the progenitor of these letters that they call in Roman or Latin. It says was directly derived from the Phoenician alphabet, and the Greeks, and we know that Phoenician alphabet was also known as Egyptian before it was known as Phoenician. So it would really be derived from the Coptic and from the Egyptian. So it says the Greeks, it say not only took the forms of the letters, they also took over some of the Phoenician names of the letter. They really talking about the Copts. It says the first letter of the Phoenician alphabets is named Aleph, meaning ox, or Alpha, Greek, and the second letter, you know, Beth, house, became Beta in Greek, which is Copta. It says based on the above mentioned facts, the English alphabet of today can be traced back to the sign of the writing of ancient Egypt. Barbara Murder says that the birds and the bees of ancient Egypt script have a more direct relationship to our own alphabet than we realize. David City's quote by Gardiner describing the observation that hieroglyphics live on through the transmuted form within our own alphabet. When they say transmuted form, that means they acknowledging the fact that the hieroglyphics are not an actual language. But it says Compton's encyclopedia states the Latin alphabet is a development from the Greek, which is really Coptic alphabet. And I was mentioning that in our presentation. If you go back to it in the recording, you'll see the Greek alphabet, which is really Coptic, in turn is an adaptation of the writing system, which was developed among the Semites of Syria about 1500 BC. Outwardly, this first Semite writing seems to be an original individual creation. Its principles, however, are certainly based in Egyptian word syllabic writing. Marian Cooley states that the English alphabet developed from a number of early writing systems, beginning with the sign writing of ancient Egypt. In the same reference, she shows a table from the development of each letter starting with the Egyptian about 3000 BC. You see now, so if you can go back to dealing with them comparing the English letter and trying to take it back to 3000 BC, you know the Coptic is older than just 333 BC then, that they talk about when they talk about the so-called Greek language. So that's when they came into remixing. It says followed by the Semitic 1500 BC, followed by Phoenician, about 1000 BC, Greek, it say by 600, followed by the Roman, 114, and finally the modern alphabet. You know, so basically they are running down in this particular history, you know, that all of this script right here, you know, these different forms of writing The writing that we have here, the ultimate source of Western alphabet, they say is ancient Egypt. You know what I mean? And so it's just a powerful drawing, brother, just in support of what you were saying. So gratitude, brother, for that measure. Islam. Well, all right. Are there any other Moors that would like to come forth and give their portion before we get ready to close this demonstration out?
Islam.
Brother Mubasa Bey.
Islam. Divine Minister Mubasa Bey, Oklahoma Consulate. Let me rise in perfect praise. Give all praise, honor, and glory to our Father God Allah, our illustrious prophet, our High Sharif Abdul Ali. And give honors to Act 1, our flag, ensigns, emblems, swift angels, multi core, and everything that is Moorish. And also honors to the class and those who spoke before me, as well as those who gonna speak after me. You know, I was checking the class out, and one of the things, you know, I kind of wanted to mention was because the stories of creation, and in all of the stories of creation, I see its similarities, be it if it's coming from our Kemetic aspect, and then going off into the way, you know, the Hebrew, or, you know, how they understood it, and then even going into the HEKAPTAH, or, you know, the Greek. But what I was you know, kind of focusing in on is even how our brothers in the East, you know, dealing with the Sanskrit and yoga, and even in their stories of creation, all seem similar. So one of the things I had thought about it, I ain't did it, but one of the things I had you know, kind of seen the similarities was how Kemetic and yoga, I don't know, you know, what nationality you would refer, you know, to that particular religious system as, but the similarities, because I've seen a lot of the same characters or same attributes to the great God is the same thing, you know, that our brothers, you know, further east have. They just have, it's the same thing, they just have a different name, you know, pretty much for the same attribute and the same deity, you know. And I kind of thought that was interesting, because, you know, when somebody had mentioned what the prophet said, you know, my sheep know my voice and the stranger will not follow. And it's almost like that, you know, when you hear truth, you can cannot kind of connect it, like, dang, that was over here and it's saying this over here. And so, you know, I was just kind of looking at the similarities on how it all, you know, can fit together. And instead of it being, you know, sectionalized and marginalized and you know, what they call it, compartmentalized to, you know, fit this particular group of people. And I noticed that, you know, a lot of the times whenever that's done, what that does is that produces a superiority complex in an immature mind, and also inferiority complex, you know, in those who may not know themselves, you know, fully. They're like, dang, well, where do I fit into this at? So, you know, I just want to extend honors, because this right here, I can see already in my mind how this is going to really, you know, bring humanity together as a whole, and to where, you know, the mind frame won't be, you know, whereas you, how do you say it? You trying to put somebody else down for your own, you know, upliftment. And I'm not saying that in regards to, I'm saying that in regards to, you know, truth coming forth, and you just putting the truth out there because of the love that you have, not because you trying to, you know what I'm saying, like be evil in communicating the truth, you know, but doing it out of love, because, you know, our nature is, that's what we is, you know, that's who we is. We love that. It's a part of our nature. So, you know, to bring that unity, man, that's gonna be grand. I can see it in my mind, you know, and so I just want to extend honors, because I can see it, you know, and it's much needed, because a lot of people, I was talking to my mama, and you know, she's staunch Christian, you know, she do her thing, you know, church or whatever, got a heart full of love, but that's, you know, where she's at right now. And I was sharing with her some things, you know, that I was learning about, you know, the similarities between the different religions. And a lot of the time she would listen to me, but she won't never give a response. But she'll how do you say it? Just listen. And so in sharing with her certain measures, I see how it opens one up to be able to see things from a different perspective versus, you know, I'm gonna say it, how they call it, that religious, it's a word that they have to where people get so stuck on in a little old box, they Christian box or whatever, and anything that ain't inside of that is disregarded. But this right here is gonna break all of that out, because it's gonna show the missing linkages on how, you know, everything is really connected. So, you know, this is a grand work, and I just want to extend my honors and gratitude and say thank you for, you know, taking your time, for all of the Moors taking their time to, you know, do this. So gratitude, family, peace and love.
Gratitude and peace and love to you as well, brother, for that drawing. And we give honors to you for the love thought. And yeah, you know, when it comes down to dealing with a lot of that history, I actually have a rundown on some of that stuff in my archives. But this was one of the ones that I have where I was just dealing with Genesis, putting everything in perspective. You got to remember, we draw from Islamism. And so that would mean that the cosmological teachings that you will find in basically all of them paths, they run hand in hand. Just different languages when expressing who it is or what it is being brought on the manifest. For example, I was showing the Ennead, you know, manifest in Genesis. And we know that, you know, in essence, you look at the word Genesis, you see gene at the root, right? You know, and that may bring you back to a certain level of genealogy, you know, or your own nature. We know that they have the God code within the essence of the DNA now, you know, being connected to the name of the great God Allah. But those primeval waters that's spoken of, we can see it as Nunet in ancient Kemet. Hu and Huhet is also present in that dark space that is referred to as a void in the Piscean record, space, infinity, and formlessness. Kuk and Kuket, which is primordial darkness, light and darkness. You know, you hear them talking about dark energy, dark matter, and all that. You know, then you have Amun and Amunet, you know, the invisible and the hidden, you know, and they become manifest as a result of Ra. And this is where it says, let there be light. You see what I'm saying? That's all demonstrated during the first day. Third ayat of the book of Genesis, a verse, right? But I say, well, day one represents Allah, a Ra, you know, the breath where he breathed forth the 7 Elohim. This is where the Adam Kad man, the Atum Kat Amun comes manifest. Tehudi and Ma'at and Atum is a result of this. Tehudi represents divine mind. Ma'at represents divine order. Atum represents the beginning, one he who creates himself, as it is called, the atom expression scientifically. You know, so we can see this equals the concept of Shu, you know, which is in the essence of dealing with Ish and Isha as well. You see, then you have husbandman, you know, mother of virtues. We see that dynamic between Tehudi and Ma'at, Ish and Isha. Then you have the last but not least, the 4. You know, the air, the water, the fire, the earth, and the ether, and so forth and so on. All of this is present in day one. And then we go into the various stages of unfoldment that these different elements come forth and represent. You got protoplasm, earth, plant, beast, man, the way we say it. That's exactly how they say creation came into being in the book of Genesis, being in conjunction with the way that we put it in order in the Moorish Holy Quran. But protoplasm would be synonymous with that of Atum, you know, becoming active like that atom, being the building block of creation. Shu and Tefnu, which represents air. You see? Then you have, you know, earth, which is Seb or Geb, which represents the earth in ancient Kemet. Geb and Nut come together making water. Then you have, you know, plant, you know, and dealing with fire, we're talking about the sun that was brought forth on day 4 in the book of Genesis. You see, in that fire, that sun cultivating the soil causes the process of, the growth, nourishes the plants to grow. Then you have day 5 in the book of Genesis deal with the beast, and we see the Apep, which is the serpent coming on to manifest at this time. You got earth and fire's elements here. This serpent not only existing in the earth outside of man, but also the earth, which is man himself, and that fire, which is within man himself, being his passions and desires, the serpent in one's garden. So day 6, when man come on to manifest, the potential for everything that was in creation in the macrocosm was already there. And then it became part and parcel of him. And so you see in the physical man that they call Adam, he would really be synonymous with Set and Neptune's degree. Carnal man and carnal woman, so to speak, governing by the level of dealing with earthbound aspects. Day 7, which is really the first day that's tied back to the one, representing the cycle. This is the day of the angel, cherubim, amen, flesh divine, the psychophysical man, aka Mar, the high priest of Anu, ether, all saw, all set, ish and ish, spirit man and woman. You see, so in the book of Genesis, they say God said, and then they say God made, and then they say God saw everything that was good, God's creation. So that's just a brief breakdown of Genesis right there, but that can be done with the text of, Hinduism and all of that as well, because they actually go into a 300 trillion year cycle, which is older than that, which the Nation of Islam like to boast. 7 to 8 trillion year, which their history too come from the Kemetic teaching. When they talk about the atom coming out of darkness, spinning on its own timetable, history being written, 72 trillion years when the stars came, 76 trillion years, all that stuff, it's all coming back from one cosmology. So gratitude, grand man, for that measure. And I've been studying that particular part of the history in depth for years. The cosmology of creation. That's where I can speak on it as I do, because I study it and I never stop studying. You know what I mean? You can't never stop studying the beginning of creation. Islam, but you know who made you and how fearfully and marvelously you made. That's the grand degree. So we give honors to you, brother, for that drawing. But yeah, lessons like that and more be on the manifest. Islam. So all right. Moorish kin, at this time, we don't want to tear it long. We done tear a good little minute, but it seems like we ain't been here that long when we be getting it in like we getting it in. And at this time, we're gonna pass this demonstration to our family so that we can, go to third heaven, so to speak. And it's been a grand drawing in our homework. We're gonna send it out to our Moorish kin. It's basically gonna be trying to identify, the old Nubian, in the Coptic, so to speak, right? Once we already know this, there was a measure put out last week, but I'm gonna send a couple of documents over here so that our family can go through them, and basically see what they can bring on the manifest, show us how it is that they can identify certain things, because as y'all seen, it ain't hard to learn that particular language. It's just like similar to what we dealing with. But like the brother was saying, you can look at it and see certain things in Latin look just like it. That's because, by the time you get to that stage right there, you can see a crossing over, into present day language and linguistics and so forth. And so only thing changes the rules that you will see one using in certain cases, certain instances, with the vowel system, the way they depict them, where they get them from, where they place them. But other than that, the main thing is identifying the alphabet, finding a doctrine, that has the alphabet in it, and then just simply transliterating and discipling, turning those symbols into single letters, so gratitude, Moorish kin. We'll send that out to our family. And we just say Islamism, gratitude for the blessings, and peace and love.
Islam. And with that, praise, this is Dr. Bati Bey, praise and I was already given. With that, I will read the warning from the prophet to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all citizens that they end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We offer peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your card to Europeans. This causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequences. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice then must take its course. Any citizen or group of citizens who hold malicious feelings towards the government or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement receive the reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in the card button, cease wearing a turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the government is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the government. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. By order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, chapter 25, Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation. You are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you son. The of affection, therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Peace. Peace and love, Moors.
Islam, grand
Islam, boys.
research, grand class.
Hey, Islam, we don't want nobody playing hooky now.
College.
Yes, sir.
We on the manifest.
We love you, boys, kid. We don't
Ain't
want
nothing
our
Islam,
Islam. Great class.
Grand class.
Islam, grand man, chairman.
Yeah, grand class, man. We love you, man.
We love you
Grand
too,
class.
man.
Love you too, Charlie.
We can't wait for Sunday school. Right.
Oh, man.
Support your government with what you have. Islam.
Islam. Peace and love, family.
Peace
Peace and love, family. All right.